will be made part and parcel of the budgeting process. They assured us that they are going to carry out needs assessment.
Government also needs to do more to look into communities where they have untarred roads. Even if they cannot tar every road for now, they can upgrade them and make them motorable.
Justice S.I. Okpara of the Imo State High Court, sitting in Owerri, the state capital, have on Wednesday denied the immediate past Deputy Governor of the state, Gerald Irona, bail after the prosecution argued that his bail application was filed late on Monday. The prosecutors argued that as of Wednesday morning, when the accused was arraigned, the 48 hours allowed by law to enable the prosecutors to respond on points of law subsisted. They said it would be unlawful for the judge to entertain the bail application when a counter bail application had not been filed by the prosecutors. Following the gruesome murder of the Labour Party candidate for Enugu East Senatorial District, Oyibo Chukwu, just days preceding the February 25 presidential election, a non-partisan group, Nsukka Professionals Association, have expressed regret that no arrests have been made since the incident. President of the group, Charles Nwodo, who briefed journalists on Tuesday in Lagos, also raised an alarm over plans by some political gladiators to cause violence during the coming governorship and State House of Assembly elections, especially in the Enugu East Senatorial District. Nwodo urged the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, to dispatch a special team of detectives to Enugu State with a mandate to seek out and apprehend all those directly connected with the crime, no matter their status or extent of connections in the society.
The brutal assassination of the Labour Party candidate for Enugu East Senatorial District in the days preceding the February 25th, 2023 elections by individuals who are yet to be apprehended. We are appalled that no arrests have been made and no suspects have been interrogated by the security agencies to date. The Inspector General of Police is implored to dispatch a special team of detectives to Enugu State with a mandate to seek out and apprehend all those directly or indirectly connected with this heinous crime, no matter their status or extent of connections in the society. The Nsukka Professional Association announces a donation of 1 million naira to the family of the slain politician in humanitarian solidarity for their grief, along with all persons of goodwill in Enugu State and Nigeria. It is our resolve to ensure that this crime is thoroughly investigated and justice served on the guilty in accordance with our laws. B. Reports of violence and electoral malpractices. Credible reports of plans by desperate politicians in Enugu State to compromise key officials of INEC, the Nigeria Police Force, the Nigeria Army, and other security agencies in Enugu State, with a view to frustrate the conduct of free, fair, and credible elections. We are informed that an INEC Enugu State official, Mrs. Ife Nauno, has been specifically accused of being the coordinator of the plots to disenfranchise Enugu voters. We call on the chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, to immediately recuse this staff from all official activities related to the forthcoming election, so as to reinforce the credibility of the electoral process and also protect the career of this staff in the event that she is innocent of the accusation.
Take a break here, but still to come, Nigeria's inflation rate rises further to 21.91% in February 2023. We'll bring you details when we return. Welcome back. Now here's a recap of our top stories tonight. The federal government has shifted the population and housing census earlier scheduled for March 29 to a later date in May. Lai Mohammed, the Minister of Information and Culture, announced the development on Wednesday at the end of the Federal Executive Council FEC meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari in Abuja. Mohammed told State House correspondents that the decision was necessitated by the rescheduling of the governorship election to March 18. We also told you that the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has commenced the distribution of electoral materials to all polling units in readiness for the governorship and state assembly elections. Speaking during the exercise at the premises of the Central Bank of Nigeria in Osogbo branch, the State INEC Resident Electoral Commission Mutiu Adegoke assured that the commission would scale up its level of arrangement procedures and security due to the high stakes attached to the elections. In case you missed any of our news bulletins, or for more updates, you can catch us on Limex World TV or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria. On Facebook, we're at TV360 Online. Nigeria is among 54 other countries with its health, workforce support and safeguard list struggling with personnel shortages. According to the World Health Organization, the impact of COVID-19 and widespread disruptions to health services, health workers in these countries continue to seek better paid opportunities in wealthier countries. The affected countries have universal health coverage index of below 55 and a health workforce density below the global median of 49 medical doctors, nursing and midwifery personnel per 10,000 people. WHO Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus said the list should be used to inform advocacy, policy dialogue at all levels, and financing efforts in support of health workforce, education and employment in these countries. We'll take another break and return with business updates. Stay with us. Welcome back. Mary Kanu joins us now with updates in business. Over to you now, Mary.
Thank you, Simisala. Helen, welcome to Business News. The National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, says the country's headline inflation rate rose to 21.91% in February 2023 compared to 21.82% of January 2023, indicating an increase of 0.09% points. The inflation rate data is contained in the latest CPI report released on Wednesday by the NBS. The report comes as the country attempts to bounce back from months of naira scarcity occasioned by the naira redesign policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria, first announced on October 26, 2022. The NBS added that on a month-on-month basis, the percentage change in the all items index in February 2023 was 1.71%, which was 0.16% points lower than the rate recorded in January 2023. The International Air Transport Association has disclosed that the trapped funds belonging to foreign airlines operating in Nigeria have risen by 12.39% to $743 million in January 2023 from $662 million in the corresponding period last year. IATA disclosed this in a letter addressed to the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, signed by the Area Manager West and Central Africa, Samson Fatokun. The association urged the minister to intervene and ensure the resolution of the issue of airlines' blocked funds in Nigeria. We'll take a break and return with stock market report. And for the third time this week, equities trading on the floor of the Nigerian Exchange Group closed in the red zone as investors sold mostly the shares of United Capital PLC and University Press alongside 17 other equities. Now increased activities on the sell side of the bourse pushed further south the market's benchmark performance index by 0.42% to close at 55,490 basis points. Investors lost 127 billion as market capitalization closed at 30.2 trillion naira. Now compared with the previous trading day, today's data shows 181 million volume of shares were traded in 3,908 deals. A switch now to the global scene. It's not a good trading day in the US and UK. The FTSE has plummeted to a 3-month low ahead of Chancellor Jeremy Hunt's spring budget. The FTSE is down at 3.49%, while the Dow Jones is also down at 1.74% as pressure on the financial sector increased the shares of Credit Suisse, a Swiss bank that has large US and global operations, tumbling down more than 15%. Now that's the stock market report. Simisola, back to you.
Thank you, Mary, for that update. And in Malawi, rescuers are still struggling to reach survivors in the country's battered city of Blantyre after Cyclone Freddy struck southern Africa for a second time, triggering floods and landslides that have killed more than 240 people across 2 countries. Red Cross Malawi spokesman Felix Washon told newsmen they have been hoisting people from trees and rooftops. Rescue workers in Malawi also warned that more victims were to be expected as they searched destroyed neighborhoods for survivors as thunderstorms persist and flood levels remained high in some areas, hampering emergency efforts. Authorities in neighboring Mozambique have so far reported 21 deaths, and the death toll there is expected to rise. In sports, Morocco will join Spain and Portugal in a bid to host the 2030 World Cup. The announcement on Tuesday was made through a statement signed by King Mohammed VI and read at a meeting of the Confederation of African Football. Morocco committed to taking part in the 2030 bid more than 4 years ago, immediately after losing the vote for the 2026 tournament, and was in talks with the Iberian nations for a while, but had never been officially included in the bid. Last October, Spain and Portugal were joined in the long-standing European candidacy by Ukraine, which is not likely to remain in the bid. Well, that's our bulletin this evening. Many thanks for watching. I am Simisola Ajiko.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it. Use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
What we're having here today, the theme of the exhibition is wet in waste. That is, what are the wet you can get from waste product, that is coconut shell. So, and the reason why we are saying wet in waste is that we have so many processors around. We have people that use coconut for their products, like coconut oil, coconut candy, coconut flakes. The name are so many. But what do they do to the shell? Nothing. So if you eat coconut, the shells, you throw it off. But some of them, they use it for making fire, fueling their fire while cooking. But that can cause environmental pollution. So we are using this now to tell a story that, okay, instead of destroying the environment, why don't you get the wet that is involved? Instead of throwing it to block our drainages, why don't you turn it to a wet making machine? So that is just the short story behind the wet in waste. Aside from that, it is unique and nobody is using it for anything. When I started, I didn't see anybody that is doing anything like installations like this. In fact, when I Google online, what I saw were craft works, cups, key holders, and the rest of them. But I started doing this just to give myself a unique name from others. The response has been very, very good. Though initially when I started, people were like, what type of thing is this? They gave me so many names. Sometimes if I stretch my hand to greet some people, they will say, your hand is too tough, blah, blah, blah. But today now the rest is story. And initially the acceptance was not there. I was giving my souvenirs to people free of charge. But now I sell them at good prices. the funny thing about the circle of Nigerian coconut artists is that we started in February. The dream just came, okay, why don't you bring these people that are doing coconut craft together? I have some of them who are my participants that I've trained over time during workshops. So, and some of them, they don't practice the craft again because the challenges are there for them. How do they sell their craft works? Who do they sell to? And the challenges of how do you cut, how do you remove the debris and the rest of them. So many challenges. But the basic one is if they produce it and they don't sell, they stop producing. So we are using this now to create a kind of platform for them so that they can showcase their work. You can see different stands here. You can see different tables with different type of artwork, even this. So they now have a platform where they can exhibit the works when visitors come around, they see. And with that, they will be encouraged to do more. So that is the story behind this. What we do is we'll cut the shells. When you cut the shells, you remove the debris, you sand it in and out and cut the shapes you want. Then, if you want to do stuff like this, you start joining them together with gum. You have hand saw, you have jigsaw, you have band saw, depending on the level at which you are. If you are just starting, you can't get a band saw because to buy a band saw now is expensive. So you can start with the hand axe saw. Is going viral, and another thing is that we are taking it to the 5 divisions of Lagos State. After Badagry, we are going to other divisions. We have Ikorodu, we have Epe, we have Mainland. So we are taking this show around there. So if we have the opportunity of showcasing it 10 days in other divisions, we will do, just to encourage the young ones around so that they can join us in removing debris from my environment and turning it to waste, to wet. Like this one, if you have seen the year before, this is that cap they put on. So I use this now to represent Eyo. Instead of putting the whole thing, it will be too big for me. So I just decided to work on the cap alone. So that's that about Eyo. And here we have Yeye Oge. This Yeye Oge, I don't know, I just love the work. Now, I use this to tell a story of a young lady. And generally, most of our ladies, they are the only one who has been questioning God, that why do you create me this way? The eyelashes are not enough, they want to add more. The lipsticks are not too clean as created by God, they want to add more, and they will embellish their hair with so many designs. So that is what I just use this one to represent, just epitome of love. Simple. The Last Supper that Jesus Christ had with his disciples. Now, I use these ones here to represent the disciples, and this is Jesus here. If you count, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Those are the disciples, and this is their table. And while eating your drink, you need a jug to fetch water from. You have that, you have the cup, and you have the fruit. Instead of putting amala and the rest, I decided to use just fruit. This is August meeting. Yes, now August meeting is popular among our friends from the East, whereby they have this their colorful attire, uniform attire, and they celebrate themselves, the women mostly. So that's why I have about 3 women there with different gele and the rest. This one now, I titled it the National Summit. There's so many stories behind it. Now, at the center you have banana, and the objects surrounding it looks like monkeys. So, yes now, without much decoration, you see this is the mouth, this are the eyes for monkeys. Now, but I'm using this now to represent the Nigerian setting or the Africa setting, whereby we have delegates, people who will send them, okay, go and represent us. But they are not particular about the people that sent them. When they get to the zoo there, or when they get to that area whereby you have flowers, you have adorable things around them, they forget those of us who sent them. The only thing they are particular about is the national cake. So I use the banana here now to represent the national cake. So that is what all of them are after. They have adorable things. That's why I use leaves, just to represent things like flowers. So in the midst of flowers, you know, you'll be happy, oh wow, you are surrounded with beautiful things. The next thing, they will have forgotten what we asked them to go and do for us, go and represent us, but no, the only thing is the national cake, which they rush after to get for their self and their self alone.
My experience as one of the artists is that we, in this part of our area here in Badagry, we that are involved in this kind of work is not well appreciated, in the sense that, you know, here this is our area. Coconut, Badagry is predominantly recognized with coconut. So, and as a result of that, while we are doing this thing, they don't see any value to it. So, like Jesus Christ, even though does not have value at his own time. So that is the similar story that we are having towards this. But outside that, we are using this thing to promote our culture, to know that this craft can bring economical value for our teeming youth. This product, this work we have involved in, can bring a kind of job creation for people. Little do we know that craft work of this nature can transform this coconut craft, the coconut shell, from the waste product they used to know it for, to a valuable thing. Before, in this area, after extracting the oil is one of the valuable things extracted from the coconut. Then coconut completely is a valuable tree, but the shell is they throw it away, so, or they burn it. Nobody knows that it can be transformed to a valuable thing. So that is why we are involved. Now coconut is going to an extinction with the activities of other activities around. But engaging this shell in transforming it to a valuable things of this nature, so people can know that we can begin to use it even to better our life. It has more economical value. So if people engage themselves in doing it. I'm an indigenous of Ajido in this Badagry environment. Gone are those days, after extracting the coconut, you see a lot of heap of it. But when we now begin to censor our people that it can be transformed to this kind of ornament, so we gather, we have a collecting center. So if you have used your coconut, just gather it, we come, we pick them. And better still, we just, if you want to get maybe the one we use for the consumables, the one we can use for either cups, jugs, the one that we can use for consumption of either drink or food. Those one we need a good quality of coconut. Those one we go to farm to select better coconut. So, but those one we can use for decoration of those ones, so we can pick shell. Those are the waste one. We can use those one and use those one and transform it then to this type of ornament. the publicity, we thank God a little bit for the immediate past supervisor for tourism and education, Honorable Samson Nunayo Akpata. He has been helpful in that regard by collaborating with us in sensitizing people. So we train the like-minded, those that have interest, we train them, and then we do our publicity. Like this event that is going on now, it is one of the first of its kind in this Badagry. It's just to publicize this and to create the awareness that something of this nature is ongoing. It has come and have come to stay. So we, the craftsmen, are highly involved in this, and we are ready to partner with whosoever that is willing to partner with us, even to give it more publications.
When I start coconut art, people look at it as a strange something, but later they now blend to it. And I've faced many people, although I'm into tourism too. When you are talking about tourism and art, it blends together, because if you travel to any area, you don't come back with souvenir, definitely you do not have anything to remind you about your visits. That's why I always work on coconut shell as souvenir. If it comes to Badagry, you must go with a coconut shell souvenir. Sincerely, if you said turning waste to wealth, it even adds to the value of the environmental thing, because it makes its cleanness, change the environment so that you don't see anything dirty in the environment. And mostly from this coconut shell, we have brought up many people, and people are blending with it. I named this remembrance. It always tells you to remember that whenever you are doing in life, there is a time you will go and the footprints will be there. And you have to remember that we are not going to live forever. And you have to remember that nobody is going to stay with you in that grave. Whatever you are doing, forget about religion, forget about everything, but your humanity service matter a lot. That's why I name it Remember. These are brooch. You can see we have brooch of local government. These are Lagos local government, Ministry of Tourism. We have another brooch. This pendant, map of Africa. We have earrings, key holders, and you can see on this textile, what we have there is the button. We always use the coconut shell as button on textiles. Pen holder, and so on. And these are little takeaway items you can get from coconut. This cup, this coconut purse. You use it in different ways. You can keep your jewelries. You can use it as safe to keep your jewelries. For example, you buy something, you can put it inside. You can put it inside, you lock it, and you can use it for your decoration, for beach outing or anything like that. Use it. We have anything like this.
What is here is Wash Go International, actually. It's of international standard. It's unusual, unexpected, and I think this man needs to be celebrated more than what we are seeing. We know that the level of unemployment right now in Nigeria is really high, And if there was a way to get this skill to more youth, and especially with the advent of social media, I think there's so much that can be done with what is here. Yeah, it will help this country as a whole. This is the kind of thing that I came here all the way from Ikorodu, and I'm sure if a lot more people knew about this, it will bring a lot more people here, and it will boost tourism here.
I was excited, like I did not believe that they can use coconut to do so many things like this, and it was beautiful. When I reach my school, I can tell them about it, that we saw many things that the people that are not here, so that they will see, they can come here to look at it, and some people would like to join or do something like this. I can now see that coconut is very important in Badagry, that we can use it to do many things. And when I see it on the ground, I can pick some ones to do like the kioda. Me too, I can try. And I can encourage some people to look at it, that coconut shell can do many things, that we can use it to do jug in our house, and spoon, and the kioda minces.
Sincerely, I will commend the organizer of this kind of show, and being for the first time, and the way they are able to organize the program. Before this time, I have to question them. I do question them that why are they using Badagry for the starting points, due to some challenges that we have to come down to this place. But upon everything, they said the symbol of this show is coconuts, and we are well known as a place that we produce coconut, granules and coconuts a lot, and there is no need for them to showcase the first program in another place. And the main thing behind this event is for them to know the value and what the end product of coconut, what we can derive from it, so that it will not be wasteful, at least creating wealth out of nothing. Sincerely, I'm overwhelmed. Each artistic design, the kind of way that the organizer name each one, and the explanation to us, sincerely, that shows that the artist know what he's doing. Likewise, there is a lot of vision, there's a lot of profitable something for every individual. As a starting point, what they have over here can meet up international competition.
It's not anything that is new to me, because I've been with the artists for a very long time. It started from very awkward creation. I mean, very, very awkward background, you know. It started from nothing to something. So, you see, what I've seen, what I've learned, and that I want the youth to learn is focus in whatever you are doing, in whatever thing that you think this is good. There is no way you won't find, you won't encounter challenges. Challenges are natural, and they test your mettle as a man. If you want to succeed in life, you must face challenges. So he's been on this thing for more than a decade. And what I saw today is amazing. It's really, really amazing. And it's telling me that there's still more to explore in this community. Things that are insignificant that I will see as nothing. We can really make it something. And that was that done. This is the identity of Badagry. When you go to Osun-Osogbo, you see carving. But here, he has created an identity for Badagry. We need the government buying into this. He has a lot to offer in terms of all this, but the government has to come in to support him. There's still a lot. There's still a lot that can be achieved, that can still be created out of this nothing that we are seeing as coconut shells. There's still a lot that he has proven that. There's still many things that can still be done, that can be achieved in terms of creativity. So, but he alone, and he's been struggling for more than a decade. That is he's been able to take it to this level is miracle. Honestly, it's miracle, because he has been doing all alone. Okay, you can see what, for instance, I expected that before we just ordinary citizens of the community comes here, we expect that other dignitaries will have come here to open it. So that encourages the artist. It inspires him that his effort is being recognized and acknowledged. But when you don't have things like that, sometimes you kill spirit. So we need government buying. We need the support. Apart from the government, the support of the community. Things like this today, we want the community to be here, everybody be here, all the VIPs, all the government, they should be here to recognize and acknowledge this work of creativity that has been displayed.
The majestic River Niger. Rising from the highlands of Guinea, it meanders through many countries to Nigeria, slicing through the commercial city of Onitsha and the beautiful Asaba on her way to the Delta, where she discharges into the Gulf of Guinea in the Atlantic Ocean. Stretching to about 4,000 kilometers, River Niger is the third longest in Africa and provides livelihood to the people of the many communities on its bank. From here, they irrigate their farmlands and fish in its deep waters. Aside providing veritable mode of transportation, it is also a source of power generation. In fact, many people, particularly in Anambra and Delta states, depend on the river for their sustenance. Back in the day, canoes were the primary means of transportation on the river and served to convey goods and people from one bank to the other. But in 1965, 5 years after independence, the first Niger Bridge constructed by Dumez was completed. With the inauguration of the bridge, the main east-west connection in Nigeria was created. For Southeasterners, homecoming is everything. They return en masse at festive seasons to celebrate with kinsmen. But quite often, the frightening gridlock on the old bridge turns the homecoming trip into a nightmare. Femi Adesina recalls the harrowing experience of a friend who spent 6 hours trying to cross from one end of the bridge to the other.
That friend I had known long before now called me and said, please, what could I do? I said, what was the issue? He said he had been on the River Niger Bridge for 6 hours. 6 whole hours. He said, can I call somebody so that they can intervene and let the bridge flow? He said, 6 hours from the foot of that bridge, that when traffic flows, you can cross that bridge in 5-7 minutes. He said 6 hours they had spent on that bridge, and there was no hope that they would get to the other side.
But then there are those with more bitter tales to tell. On this same bridge, homebound families are known to have been trapped for hours and days on end.
I have slept there, so I have a first-hand experience of the challenge. So in situations like that, it's a nightmare, because you may even come there thinking that you are just you have stayed 1 day. Some people tell you they have stayed 2 days, especially during festivities. It's usually a very major nightmare.
Aside the nightmarish experience of the users, the bridge also poses danger to motorists as a result of the heavy load it bears.
I've had awful experiences flying through that Niger Bridge. It has been an awful experience where we have a dilapidated bridge that for so many years it has lasted. It was so dilapidated that sometimes you'd be scared that you might end up having your car get into the river. So it's an awful experience.
There has been lots and lots of tales about that place. We've had records of the bridge quivering, motorists on the bridge actually feeling the quakes and tremors from the bridge. So it was, in one way or the other, going to end up being a nightmare. It was actually a catastrophe just waiting to happen.
Now, 57 years after it was built, the second Niger Bridge is coming up quickly to alleviate the plight of the people, reduce the load on the old bridge, and boost the socio-economic potentials of the Southeast.
is very nice. It's very good.
So we believe that since the new Niger Bridge have passed, we believe that development can come.
Truly, the construction of a second bridge across the river Niger had long been identified as the panacea to the seemingly intractable gridlock and frustration on the old bridge. Until 2018, it was the subject of intense politicking. While President Shehu Shagari promised to build the bridge, General Ibrahim Babangida challenged Nigerian engineers to design it. From General Sani Abacha to successive governments, nothing much was done except perhaps for President Olusegun Obasanjo, who actually flagged off the construction of the bridge on the eve of his departure in 2007. His successor, Alhaji Omar Yaradua, had a short stay in office, but ahead of the 2015 general elections, President Goodluck Jonathan performed another groundbreaking ceremony and promised to do the bridge.
I remember that clearly. I was in my office in the Sun newspapers on that day, and I remember crystal clear that flag off and the things that were said about that bridge. And it's amazing that nothing happened. And then the day the then President Jonathan also went to that side, I remember clearly. That's why it's baffling that after all those body movements, nothing happened.
It was being used for politics. Every 4 years, they do flag off, they do ceremony. After the flag off, they remove everything, and then the bridge is forgotten. After another 4 years, at every election period, canopies are set, and then another flag off. So that was why when the president now gave his word, knowing who he is, that he's going to do this bridge, considered it a flagship project, and then followed through. Today, we're no more talking about flag off, we're now talking of commissioning.
The era that was most significant vis-a-vis Second Niger Bridge was the 16 years of the People's Democratic Party. Anytime elections were approaching, they would go there, make some body movements as if things were going to happen concerning the Second Niger Bridge. Once elections came and they got the votes of the Southeasterners, they disappeared. The next time, when elections were coming again, they would pretend that there was movement on Second Niger Bridge and it would fizzle out again. Then came Muhammadu Buhari, a man from the northwest of the country, from Dara. In terms of affinity with the southeast, it's not much, except that we're all Nigerians.
Interestingly, while little was done during the period of bumper harvests from oil sales, President Muhammadu Buhari, who arrived the scene at a time of lean financial resources, became the game changer. Without the boastful promises and grandstanding of the past, President Buhari plunged headlong into the project. Today, he has succeeded where others before him failed.
I think I'm going to say it unequivocally that President Muhammad Okechukwu Buhari, that is one of the greatest achievements that he has done for Nigeria. I'm not talking about Southeast, I'm talking about Nigeria as a whole. Because without that bridge, there will be no movement from Southeast to North, from Southeast to West. So even going outside Nigeria, a lot of folks that come to Aba, buy goods, come to Onitsha, buy goods, now have to transfer those goods to other nation states.
It is encouraging, it is nice to see that for the first time, we actually have an administration that has looked into that problem and preferred a real solution in the new Niger Bridge. So I think it's a positive step, one that If more of our leaders would emulate, it would make Nigeria a much better place for us to live in.
The second Niger Bridge is an engineering marvel being executed by Julius Berger, the international construction giant. Stretching to a length of 1.6 kilometers, the bridge is equipped with a 10.3-kilometer highway. The toll plazas in both directions of the facility have 8 lanes leading to the bridge. The Owerri interchange on the Onitsha-Owerri road is designed to provide direct access to the bridge from Obosi in Anambra State to Asaba in Delta. Construction of 2 secondary bridges at Amakom and Atani communities are also part of the total package.
All the 16 booths have been completed. The operation building also completed. Then the workshops and other ones, security house, they've been completed. Then the approach road on this project, we have 3 kilometers on Asaba end. Like I said, has been constructed. We only need to put the final layer of the asphalt. Then on the Onitsha end, the Anambra end, we have completed more than half of it.
On the eastern side of the bridge lies the ever-bustling Onitsha, a commercial hub that embodies the resilient and enterprising spirit of the people of the southeast. The Onitsha main market, reputed to be the largest in Africa, attracts visitors from across the continent and contributes to the hectic commercial environment of the city. As a result of the intense economic activities in Onitsha and beyond, traffic holdup on the old bridge is perpetual and frustrating. But the ongoing 7-kilometer approach road on the Onitsha side of the new facility will help to eliminate congestion and provide direct access to the second bridge. The idea is to connect the southeast and south-south regions seamlessly to the rest of the country.
You see, you're talking of a bridge that links Anambra State, Southeast, Abia, Imo, to the entire Nigeria, coming through Lagos. All right, that is the route. All the containers that come from Lagos, coming to the east, that's the route they use. It's quite enormous. It's something that, if you look at the economic benefit, you get very excited. There's quite a lot we can benefit from it, and it's going to impact very positively on the economy of the Southeast.
It's going to lead to free flow of traffic. Of course, even our people who reside in other parts of the world, or in other parts of the country, once there is a period of festivities where all of our people return home to celebrate Christmas, Easter, and what have you, they will not hesitate. Most of them will come back home, and coming back home brings happiness home. Economically, economic will become viable because goods will move freely between other parts of the country and the southeast. Business will boom and everything will pick up.
On the other side of the bridge lies the serene city of Asaba, the capital of Delta State and once the colonial headquarters of the Southern Protectorate of Nigeria. Strategically located on the bank of the river, Asaba serves as the main entryway to the southeast from the Lagos axis. Here, traffic is usually heavy on its main highway, but to ease the flow and divert vehicles to the new bridge, a 3.3-kilometer approach road is also being constructed.
The second Niger Bridge is the artery between the western part and the eastern part of the country and the rest of the country. You can't quantify what it will do economically. Even apart from the economy, how about the comfort of the people? Going home at festive seasons, our brethren from east of the Niger love to travel at Easter, at Christmas, and other festive seasons. You cannot imagine the relief they will have on that bridge. They have slept on that bridge before. My friend spent 6 hours last December, but people who slept till the next day have that experience. So the relief will come for them.
President Muhammad Buhari is a man of few words. When in 2018 he gave assurance that his administration was going to deliver the project, many people may have taken it with a pinch of salt and perhaps waved it off as a familiar story, a tale by moonlight repeatedly told by past politicians without commensurate action. 4 years after, the dream is set to become a reality.
I thank God I'm alive to see the working of that second Niger bridge. They have gone a long way. I am happy over what I see today. They are trying. They are trying. I pray, let the Chukwu Okike Abioma guide them. So far they have gone.
It's been a subject of serious politicking over the years. So our people kind of developed a feeling that it will never come. But all of a sudden, here comes President Buhari, who now announced that he was going to do the bridge and immediately started work.
It waited this long because they made it political. Instead of really pulling up their bootstraps and working, they turned it to a political thing. That was why whenever elections were approaching, they would go there to hoodwink the people of the region to get their votes. They turned it into a political thing. But then came President Buhari, who was not interested in fooling anybody, who was not interested in the politics of it, he was just interested in action.
Under this administration as well, the long-abandoned Onitsha River Port has been revived and may soon become a port of final destination for goods bound for the southeast, thereby decongesting the existing seaports in Lagos, Port Harcourt and other cities. Stakeholders are of the view that the second Niger bridge will boost activities at the river port and complement the multimodal transportation initiative of the administration.
Today, we talk of multimodal forms of transportation. You talk about the road, you talk about the rail, you talk about water and things like that. So this multi-approach is something that has a lot to do with impacting on the economy. So here is the Onitsha River Port that has to deal with the water, and then here is the second Niger bridge that has to do with the roads, but both complement each other.
To ensure compliance to schedule and quality delivery, the project site has witnessed high-profile visitors lately. Aside the Minister of Works, Babatunde Fashola, who pays regular supervisory visits to the site, the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, recently led top functionaries of the federal government to see the state of readiness of the bridge.
The Federal Executive Council has passed tolling policy, national tolling. National is for the nation as a whole. So which one will be concession, toll fares, and so on, that's secondary. Important, let us finish this road.
Similarly, the Minister of Finance, Hajia Zainab Ahmad, also came calling with the Managing Director of the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, Mr. Ucheoji, and Chief Executives of other relevant agencies. For the Minister, it was an inspection and assessment visit to be sure the 157 billion naira so far released has been well utilized.
I can report to Mr. President and say I have seen where all the 157 billion naira has gone to. This is a project that is very dear to His Excellency the President. It is designed to uplift the lives and livelihoods of the people of the southeastern part and the southwestern part of our country.
Indeed, the transportation industry has experienced unprecedented turnaround in the past 7 years. For a critical sector that supports socio-economic growth, it's never been this good. Apart from equipping the National Inland Waterways Authority to provide navigable pathways for the movement of goods and services, stupendous amount of resources have also been committed into developing a functional rail transportation system. In addition to the second Niger and local Oweto bridges, solid road networks that crisscross the country and connect the geopolitical zones have been constructed.
When the story of the Buhari administration is to be told, of course, we will talk about the second Niger Bridge. We will talk about the Bodo Boni Bridge. We will talk about the Loko Oweto Bridge. We will talk about Lagos Ibadan Expressway. We will talk about the new ultramodern airport in Lagos, the one in Kano, the one in Port Harcourt. We will talk about the new runway in Enugu. We will talk about so many things.
Just as the River Niger provides legitimate employment and sustenance for many families, construction activities at the new facility have also given jobs and livelihood to many people from the region. In addition to this legacy infrastructure, critical road projects and monuments are also being executed in the zone. Despite these huge investments, political detractors had actually tried to sell the false narrative of hatred and marginalization to some gullible natives of the area.
With the developmental strides that the president has taken to the south, it's not just the second Niger Bridge. What about the Enugu-Port Harcourt Expressway, which the president made sure that that rehabilitation of such road is completed? Other giant projects that the president has started and also completed in the southeast is an evidence that the president indeed does not hate the southeast.
Don't forget that time was when southeasterners, people of Igbo extraction, were controlling the levers of development. I'll give you an example. The deputy senate president from southeast, deputy speaker from southeast, chairman senate committee on works southeast, chairman house committee on works southeast, minister of finance and coordinating minister of the economy southeast, secretary to government of the federation southeast. And all through those periods, not 1 kilometer of our roads, federal roads, that were in terrible state, not 1 kilometer was addressed. And all these people I mentioned are from southeast. Now it took somebody else who is not from southeast to now address this infrastructural decay. Now face the reconstruction of these roads, this critical infrastructure. Just to mention a few of the things that this administration has done in the southeast. And then somebody goes back and says he hates southeast. How does you demonstrate hate?
This president bears malice to nobody, and he has cared for the southeast as much as he cares for other parts of the country.
The second Niger Bridge is an important national asset. Aside easing traffic on the old bridge, it is an inter-regional integrator with the capability of boosting economic activities and development in the southeast. Already, the people are beginning to tap into the huge investment opportunities that come with the bridge.
You know our people, we are business people. We understand the dynamics and we take advantage of opportunities. It will bring a lot of development to the southeast, a lot. And even south-south, because the bridge is coming from Asaba to Onitsha and vice versa. So the development is not only for south, it's also for south-south.
Truly, when the story of the Muhammadu Buhari administration is told, the second Niger Bridge will be recorded among its greatest achievements.
When President Buhari would have been done and is gone to have his due retirement, and the story is being told, what would never be forgotten will be his footprints on the sands of time in terms of infrastructure.
Whether you call it democracy or election result different from the real one, or transmission, transfusion, transition different from transparency. You are not far from the truth, but I hope the government will truly be a town hall different from Bala Blue. In 2007, late President Yar'Adua, in his inaugural speech, admitted that the election that brought him to office was far from being perfect, and subsequently set up the retired Justice Uwe's Committee on Electoral Reform. Whatever happened to the robust recommendation of that report that the appointment of INEC chairman, national commissioners, and resident electoral commissioners shouldn't be the sole prerogative of the president? Today, nobody is bothered again, and yet we expected an election different from Bala Blue. Anyway, that's our topic for another day. Even though, also, like the 2007 election, I'm aware that just like Professor Maurice Iwu's promises of conducting credible election, Professor Mahmoud Yakub's promises along the same line fell even lower than the expectations of Nigeria. However, because of the constitutional presumption of regularity in favor of INEC result as declared, I therefore congratulate everyone that has received a certificate of return, including Mr. President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu, while hailing the courage and resilience of those that have proceeded to the tribunal. I say at the end of the day, may Nigeria win. I've seen videos of the president-elect visiting captains of industries, former military leaders, and some traditional rulers, either with his certificate or without. But I want to urge him also to extend this visit to both Christians and Muslim clerics in the South because of the fears entertained in some quarters over his Muslim ticket. Because we certainly cannot shy away from the fact that our country has been so fractured along religious, tribal, and language fault lines, which also is patently reflected in not only our national life, but showed massively in the voting pattern and the complaint thereafter. Let him not be like Buhari, who promised to belong to everybody and nobody, but ended up allegedly belonging to nobody but a few certain cabals. Anyway, no be me talk about. While Tinubu is on his visit, I hope he has selected his team. He should immediately set out his economic team to ensure timely realization of his blueprint and realizable action plans and programs with actualization dates and timeline to enable us follow up and also determine KPI as he has promised to hit the ground running. Make it not be like Buhari when he hit the ground and started running away from the ground. Well, since Buhari is hardly aware of anything, I also hope he should be aware that there's massive suffering in the land occasioned by his party's failure to fulfill their promises to the people. Even though his party no agree say they failed. But at least now, the intentional decapitalization policy of Emefiele CBN has for once united both the politicians and the people as complainants. Everybody complain, no money. Even as the Naira is falling headlong and the country has become so unsafe to live. So he should put aside politics and strive to truly protect and provide for both those that gave him 95% vote and those that gave him 7% vote, if you know what I mean. He need not be told that the country needs to diversify its economy away from oil now more than ever before and truly ensure that NNPC is in words and in deed a profit-making ventures like the Saudi Arabia Aramco oil companies that just posted a profit of $161 billion in 2012. 2012, I mean to say. Also, with the prevailing economic hardship and the feeding bottle system of government we run, where states run to Abuja to share money every month, the reformation of the concurrent and exclusive legislative list and enhanced general welfare of the people deserve his urgent attention now more than ever before. We also cannot overflog the fact that his government need to create massive employment for our teeming youthful population and find way to not only export cassava, agbado, grains, and other agricultural produce, but also provide electricity that will enhance processing of these goods, boost food availability, industrial job creation, and improve manufacturing. Lastly, his government needs to ensure a statutory declaration that will ensure gender equality and participation in government, improve the security of lives and properties, and foster a truly renewed hope different from Bala Blue. May I also draw his attention to the fact that the undermentioned critical areas of our national lives needs serious attention and revamping like yesterday. The Land Use Act, elevation of the value and dignity of the lives of every Nigerian above its current parlor state, fiscal federalism, state policing, fuel subsidy, our population census, local government, legislative and judicial autonomy, separation of religion from the state, issues of terrorism, kidnapping, open grazing and banditry. You name it. Don't just tell me the list is too much. Add your own as the team. Plenty. After all, he begged for the job. I will therefore advocate that until the incoming government builds bridges to unite, diversify the economy, and rekindle true hope in the people, and the people also putting their government on their toes to deliver on their campaign promises, soon we will not only be talking about a town hall different from Bala Blue, but our country will not be different from a Bala Blue. However, irrespective of our misgiving, we must collectively push, pressure, and work to make Nigerians succeed. Anyway, make I stop here for now until next week. But don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen, and let us know if you agree or disagree with us. But in all, let's always be decorous. Lastly, I leave you with this: never be afraid of your government. Instead, let the government be afraid of you. See you next week.
Thanks for joining me on another edition of Startups. I am Abisola Adebayo. As usual on the program, we celebrate men and women who have passed the startup test, prevailed all limitations to making their dreams a reality, and are oiling the wheels of Nigeria's economy. Today on the program, we'll be talking to two startup owners who are using technology to solve several challenges in the Nigerian society. Let's find out how.
Grey Hub now becomes an innovative hub and co-working space, as well as a creative industry focused center where people come to do their works, where startups come around, especially startups that are tech related or tech inclined, come around to grow their businesses. My name is Raphael, Issa Raphael, and I'm the CEO and founder of Grace of Technology.
In recent years, Nigeria's rising unemployment rate has become the center of social and economic concern. The situation is so bad that data from the National Bureau of Statistics show that 1 out of every 3 Nigerians is unemployed. Seeing the rate of unemployment, which has led to increased poverty in the country, Issa Raphael decided to establish Graysoft Technologies. In 2015, Graysoft started out as a service IT company that provides technology solutions to companies. But later in that year, the company decided to change its strategy after it almost ran out of business. In no time, Graysoft started equipping unemployed individuals in digital skills, helping them gain access to the opportunities available online.
It started as a service industry. It was a service IT company. But then in that same 2015, when there was a change in government, we noticed that the economy experienced a downturn. And what we saw happen was that company began to rapidly downsize. As a matter of fact, we were, one of our famous projects then was a preventive maintenance. That means that we service systems, computer systems for companies. And then before anything happened, so there was a routine maintenance plan. But then as companies began to downsize, what we saw was that people were no longer willing to do preventive maintenance. They wanted it to be reactive. They're like, oh, wait, let it go bad first. You know, and then we began to run out of business. So we immediately had to change strategy. And so we decided to pursue that one vision, help people access digital opportunity. If we know that the world is a global space and there's no barrier whatsoever, it means that I can be here and work for people in the United States. It means that I can be here and work for people in Canada and in the UK and all of that. And so we do not now talk about the availability of jobs as to a given space or time. We don't say that there's a job available in Nigeria or not. We are saying, are there jobs available globally? And the answer is yes. And we can't find enough people to do the jobs that are in those places. So we decided to go on a journey to have most people, especially Nigerians and by extension Africa, access these opportunities. Our mission now for Graysoft Technologies is now to help people leverage technology for improved livelihood. So we decided to build that company to a brand where we are able to train people to acquire these skills, and also not just train them, but to help them see, recognize, and access, and finally utilize these opportunities to improve their life.
Graysoft Technologies is situated in the heart of Kaduna, Nigeria's center of learning. Raphael says he made the decision to establish his company in the North Central state to help close the digital skills gap, which sadly is a luxury to a large section of its population.
I believe that the North is underserved, and you will see that, as a matter of fact, for all the foreign direct investments that comes from Europe or from the West into Africa, as it were, Nigeria swallows 70% of it, right? And of the 70% that Nigeria takes, Lagos, the south, takes about 80–90% of that. You understand? And that's because they have structure. They understand what it means to have a properly functioning service industry. They have all of these hubs that we are just recently opening and all of that. So it becomes a very viable point for investors to go to because they've already built that structure. So Kaduna, as well as other northern states, are lacking there. This is why we decided to situate here in the north to ensure that these opportunities do not always miss us. You know, so we're trying to achieve proper structure for MSMEs, trying to see that startups are properly structured, especially those of them that are tech inclined. We're trying to see that we are able to solve our own problems right here in the north using technology. The good thing is that as of now, we have a governor who is, that's a person of His Excellency Governor El-Rufai, Ahmed El-Rufai. He's Nasir El-Rufai. He's someone who is tech inclined. He's tech savvy, someone who appreciates technology, and his government has done quite a lot of things that shows that yes, indeed, technology is the way forward. So as more people come into tech in the north, you know that it brings about accountability, it brings about effectiveness, it brings about transparency, and it brings about resourcefulness.
After 5 years of its establishment, Graysoft Technologies would later go ahead to launch Graysoft Hubs, a conducive and state-of-the-art co-working space for entrepreneurs and tech startup owners. Beyond skill acquisition, startups are often faced with the challenge of renting space. Other necessary expenses, such as electricity and internet bills, are often too much for a new company to bear. As a solution, Graysoft Technologies launched Graysoft Hubs, a conducive and state-of-the-art co-working space for entrepreneurs and tech startup owners.
GrayHub saw a bright light. GrayHub now becomes an innovative hub and co-working space, as well as a creative industry focused center where people come to do their works, where startups come around, and especially startups that are tech related or tech inclined, come around to grow their businesses. You should really understand that when startups are starting, their greatest challenge, one of their greatest challenge, of course, will be to rent a facility. They don't even have money. They're just starting, right? And they can't recruit the proper team that they need at that level. They can't afford to pay salaries. When you come to they can't buy 24-hour electricity, neither can they buy 24-hour internet service. So when you come to this place for a very small token, right, you have access to GrayHub, which is the co-working space. I think our smallest package is about 15,000. So you can have access to 24-hour electricity, 24-hour light. You can have meetings with your clients in this place. You can have access to our business incubation and acceleration programs. You can have access to our business mentors. You have access to informal teams, and that means that the next person sitting by your side is just able to answer the next question that you're looking for someone to do for you. You want to design a logo or you want to do some digital marketing, the person on your side could do it for less than you could have paid someone. That's GrayHub.
Poised to be a one-stop shop for everything digital technology, the company has other sections. The Gray Tech section that services technology needs of companies, Gray Create that helps creatives leverage on technology to produce content, and then Gray Funds that assist entrepreneurs improve their income.
Now, Gray Tech is all that surrounds the whole idea of technology. We have an internal team where we build applications, we serve other clients, and build solutions to various problems that people can afford to pay for and use to solve their challenges. That's everything that has to do with Gray Tech. All right, Gray Create is everything that services the creative industry. And that's from local content or cultural creations to filmmaking, to music, as it were. And it will amaze you that we see things differently here. Music here is not just seen as an entertainment like it is seen in most places. At Gray Create, we see music as a therapeutic tool. And we see that even dance, as it were, are things that people can use to exercise themselves instead of just for entertainment. That music also is also seen as a tool that is used to calm the mind sometimes. So we try to engage these things from this point of view. And of course, Gray Fund, like you said, finally, is a sort of trading, forex trading we're trying to put together, but to mainly serve the Graysoft community. As for people who are subscribed to us, we try to put a funding, a sort of a fund for them where they can get professionals trade for them to help them improve their income. And this is also so that they might not necessarily even look forward to paying next month's subscription, depending on what they've invested. Depending on the profit that they make from the Gray Fund, these profits can cover for their next subscriptions, and then they also make something in return. This is just seeing that the community is able to serve them and to give back to them.
Raphael says even though funding was an initial challenge for the organization, Graysoft has been able to overcome this challenge through its focus on empowering people.
Our major challenge so far, since we started in 2015, of course, was funding, and that's why we stopped at a point, and the various government instability as per policies that came on, the taxing policies and all of that put together. But of course, as it is now, with the hub coming through, and as our vision begins to come clearer and centers more around people, we have decided to concentrate and focus solely on empowering people. And since that's our main target, you see a lot of people coming around to learn stuff here for free. Of course, there are some premium courses, but then you see a lot of people coming here to learn stuff for free. And because of the things that they're able to learn, they also want to give back to also stay and train more people. And of course, that now reduces the number of people that you want to pay for, because they have learned for free, and they're also willing to train other people also for free. So funding, as it were, is no longer a problem for us, because we have a culture where money as it is not what drives us here. We seek after creating value.
The advent of the global coronavirus pandemic has drawn focus to the importance of supporting entrepreneurs with technology. This has helped Greysoft contribute to its success story. Among other things, the company is now a certified Certiport authorized testing center, licensed to give certifications for digital skills worldwide.
As a matter of fact, Greysoft is a certified Certiport authorized testing center. So we are licensed to give professional certifications for courses, Microsoft related courses, IBM, Adobe courses, and all of these professional standard courses. Very much recently, I'd even tell you that we, on our launch, we executed a memorandum of understanding with the Kuka Center, where Bishop Matthew Kuka himself was here. And that is the whole essence of that MOU is to sponsor an award series for young Africans. I'm talking continentally, young Africans who are doing exploits in the ICT industry, so that we can use that to encourage young people abroad, to come back to Africa, come back from diaspora, come back to Africa and strengthen their own countries.
For Raphael, the big plan is to make a global impact by empowering entrepreneurs across the country that would empower others to build businesses across Nigeria and Africa at large, with the belief that the domino effect can generate revenue for Nigeria's economy and drive down its unemployment index. Well, just like Raphael said, the world is now a digital space that we have no choice but to adjust to the new normal. And Wabi Nigeria in Lagos couldn't agree more. They are helping local retailers adapt to the new normal by bringing them on board in the digital space.
Wabi is a brainchild of Coca-Cola. So we do have that leverage in the name that we work with, Coca-Cola. Really, the key thing we're offering is convenience for our retail outlets, helping them be in a digital space, play alongside the big boys, and also be in a position where they can enhance their trade. My name is Omolara Adagbodo, and I'm the country manager at Wabi Nigeria.
Nigeria's informal retail market is currently worth over $100 billion and continues to grow by the day, significantly contributing to the nation's economy. But this promising sector is plagued with the challenges of poor logistics, as retailers and traditional stores who dominate the market have issues getting goods from the distributors and wholesalers. They would have to go through the stress of visiting the market, search for products to buy, and even transport them to their stores. This process is usually time, energy, and resources consuming. Seeing this challenge, Wabi decided to open a country office in Nigeria to digitize the existing traditional trade channels and allow wholesalers and distributors in the FMCG space sell their product directly to the traditional stores online.
In Nigeria, we have two parts of the business that we will be working very hard to grow: Wabi 2B and Wabi 2U. Today, Wabi 2B is live, and Wabi 2B is that section of the business that helps these retail outlets order products from wholesalers that are around them. So imagine someone who's used to going into the open market to ask for prices on products, moving from one shop to the other, getting to a point where they can order all the products they need on one platform in the comfort of their shops. We see that the traditional trade channels are being left behind in the digital mode. So what is happening and what we see going on is that digital commerce, e-commerce as it were, is building giants even in the space of selling groceries and daily needs. So it is important to make sure our traditional trade channels are able to play in the digital world to be prepared for a great digital move as we have seen is going on. Now they see the need to go online. Now they have incentives to make them want to buy online because they see that why do I need to stress to go to the market, right? Somebody is going to give me the products I need at the best prices and I can get everything I need in one place. So it becomes easier for them to transact.
Wabi2B is a digital platform where wholesalers can sell directly to retailers. On the platform, retailers can compare their prices, which gives them the opportunity to buy at the best price, and as a result, they make increments in sales.
Really, the key thing we're offering is convenience for our retail outlets, helping them be in a digital space, play alongside the big boys, and also be in a position where they can enhance their trade. So it's easy to know which products people are selling from which products people are buying, basically. So our retail outlets, when our field sales guys would go out to them, they would be the ones to say, we want this particular product or we want this particular brand. Why don't you have this particular brand? Then we source for those products. Because when we first launched, we launched with Coca-Cola products, and then we started going out to other companies to bring their products on board. And like you said, there's over 5,000 SKUs in Nigeria today. How to narrow it down is to know what our customers are purchasing. And to know what the end consumers will purchase is from what the retail outlets are asking for. So we take their feedback and we'll continue growing. And this is how we maintain good pricing as well. Because sometimes, you know, a wholesaler will say, I'm selling this product at this particular price, and the retail outlet will tell you that, no, I bought it 2 days ago in the market at this price. So we can challenge the wholesalers with those and make sure we keep keeping the best prices on the platform.
The startup is a brainchild of Coca-Cola Company, which is an international beverage distributor. Country manager of Wabi Nigeria, Lara Adagunodo, says, although Coca-Cola's reputation eased Wabi's transition into Nigeria's FMCG sector, getting the company started is not a walk in the park. Getting customers on the platform was one of the early challenges the startup had to tackle.
We do have leverage, to be honest, in the sense that Wabi is a brainchild of Coca-Cola. So we do have that leverage in the name that we work with, Coca-Cola, but it hasn't really stopped the challenges and the issues we'd face around getting people to want to actually do business online. Imagine a sales rep goes into a shop of Mommy Titi to say, oh, I want to put you online, you can now buy and sell online. They're suspicious immediately, right? Like, you want to defraud me, get out of my shop. And our guys did get that a lot in the beginning. And after that, we also had issues, you know, with retail outlets, wholesalers, not even wanting to go online at all because they believe that transacting online meant they were using their data, and they were very, very guided about their data. Greatest challenge we've had has been around logistics, and logistics is a challenge not only for e-commerce businesses, but also for FMCG businesses in Nigeria. So this is a daily challenge that we work with, and we keep finding creative ways to solve.
Wabi's mode of operation is simple. To get the local retailers on the platform, sales representatives, who are referred to as Wabi hunters, go into communities, interact with local store owners on the convenience they enjoy when they register on the platform and place their orders.
So we have retail sales reps, as I mentioned earlier. They go directly to the shops. We have a specific number of sales reps who are assigned to certain areas, and they go directly to those shops and try to bring them on board. So they convince them with offers, deals, show them the platform, and then get them to register whilst they are there. For that crop of customers, we found that the best way to reach them is through one-to-one communication. So we have invested a lot in having field sales reps all across Lagos, speaking to them, bringing them on board. Once they bring them on board, the engagement starts, right? Then the retailers are able to place orders, and the retail sales reps, continue to speak to them, getting what they need, getting feedback for the company, and then sending this straight to us.
Since its launch in April 2021, the company has garnered over 10,000 retailers on the platform, with over 100 field sales representatives constantly engaging customers and gathering feedback. The company is set to launch Wabi to You, a platform that allows the local retailers they service sell to final consumers online.
Coronavirus time and the economy at hand currently. It's very tough for businesses like us, because we play in the FMCG game, and if you are familiar with the FMCG game, you will know that it's just a game of numbers. We just keep chasing targets, and little profits, at the end of the whole quarter. But since Chimeze introduced Wabi to us, I remember I think we started in June. I was very reluctant. I'm like, this sounds stressful. That's because, for example, I would paint an instance to you. We buy from Asido, we buy from Nestle, we buy from Caraway, we buy from GB Foods. We have stipulated targets to meet at the end of every quarter. We forget the reason why we're in business, which is to make profit. Wabi has actually changed the experience for us because, for instance, if I buy my cowbell or my peak milk, I'm selling to the customer buying from me at cost price. I'm sure you'll be wondering how we're making profit, right? But since we joined Wabi, we've been selling profitably, to be honest. I think in June, we recorded about 26,000, thereabouts, very small. In July, it was going, like she said, incremental sales. It was going up. Last month, we did 7 million naira sales. It sounds small still, right? But the profit on the 7 million is more than the businesses I've been doing with all my suppliers in the past. I don't need to say too much. Wabi is just the way to go. Wabi is the future. For instance, I sit at the convenience of my office, comfort of my office. The app pops up. Okay, I have 4 orders from Shomolu. I have 4 orders from Ikeja. I have from, So they keep opening up more spaces for me in Lagos to make sales. So that has been very, very wonderful. Right now, the sales is very overwhelming. As I'm speaking to you now, we are looking for more vans to be able to accommodate the order. It's not easy, to be honest, but they have created this niche for us wholesalers to be able to reach out to retailers that would originally or naturally not reach out to.
According to the International Labour Organization, the retail sector employs at least 142 million people in developing countries. Given the importance of the retail industry, services that startup like Wabi Nigeria offers is exactly what the economy needs to achieve economic viability. That's all we have for you on this edition. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for watching.
On the news, federal government shifts population census to May. INEC begins distribution of electoral materials for the governorship and state assembly elections. And Atiku and the PDP withdraw fresh applications against INEC. Thank you for joining us on News Now on TV360 Nigeria. I am Simisola Adigun. The federal government has shifted the population and housing census earlier scheduled for May 29 to a later date in May. Lai Mohammed, Minister of Information and Culture, announced the development on Wednesday at the end of the Federal Executive Council FEC meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari in Abuja. Mohammed told State House correspondents that the decision was necessitated by the rescheduling of the gubernatorial elections to March 18. He also said that the council approved the sum of 2.8 billion naira for the National Population Commission (NPC) to procure software to be used for the conduct of the census. With just 2 days to the March 18 governorship and state assembly elections, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has commenced the distribution of electoral materials to all polling units. The distribution took place at the premises of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Osogbo branch, and was supervised by the State INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner Motiu Adegoke. Speaking before the commencement of the exercise, Adegoke assured that the commission would scale up its level of arrangement, procedures, and security due to the high stakes attached to the election. He said armed security operatives would be on duty at collation centers across the state, adding that operatives would also deploy more men to violent-prone areas to ensure hitch-free polls. Now, it's been 2 weeks since the presidential election took place nationwide, but despite the seeming enthusiasm of the citizens, numbers have shown that there was a low turnout of voters. Many have attributed the voter apathy to suppression, voter intimidation, and the scarcity of money and fuel. Aggrieved opposition parties also have approached the court to challenge the outcome of the February 25 presidential election and the emergence of APC's Bola Tinubu as a winner. Now, to weigh in on these existing factors leading to the coming election, political affairs analyst joins me now on the news. Thank you for joining me, Omore Ayigbe. Now, the mode of transmission of the presidential election results remains the bone of contention, and aggrieved parties are still in court. Now, do you think INEC will make the desired adjustment in Saturday's election?
Yes, thank you for having me. Yes, I think INEC will make the necessary adjustment because of the backlash it had in the 25th February election. INEC received local and international backlash from the election. So many people did condemn the processes that didn't go through to what INEC committed itself to do. So I believe that INEC will do the needful now, because I think sincerely that the Commission will want to try to adjust its image that has been already been affected by the last election. Yes, I think the Commission wants to in quote, repair is almost damaged reputation from the last election.
Okay, so how do you expect the coming elections to play out, considering that INEC had to postpone the conduct by 1 week? Now, do you think that the electoral body is prepared for the elections?
The postponement has nothing to do with the preparation of INEC. INEC was prepared to hold the election on March 11. What led to the postponement was because of the reconfiguration of the bimodal voter accreditation system, the BVAC, due to the court order restraining INEC from going ahead with it, because the parties, PDP and APC, wanted to use the BVAC as a piece of evidence in their own case. They wanted to inspect the BVAC across used in that election. And you know that the BVAC will be used in the March 11th election.
What did
and the time was too close to the election, and they could not reconfigure them. As I speak now, they've all been reconfigured, and non-sensitive materials have started moving out. Tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, the sensitive material will begin to move appropriately. And the BVAC is a sensitive material for the election.
All right, election expert Omoro Ayigbe, many thanks for your contribution and your time. Moving on, the People's Democratic Party and its presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar have withdrawn an application they filed to compel the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to allow their agents to participate in the process of sorting out ballot papers that were used for the February 25 presidential election. Both the PDP and Atiku are separately challenging the outcome of the election that was declared in favor of the candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu. According to the applicants, the decision is a fallout of a meeting with the leadership of INEC on Tuesday, owing to challenges that administrative bottlenecks that they encountered at the INEC office where they went for access to the election materials as ordered by the court. President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, has advised the incoming 10th National Assembly to maintain a bipartisan approach that prioritizes the national interest amid its deliberations. Lawan said this when he received the outgoing British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Catriona Liang, in his office in Abuja on Tuesday. While congratulating the incoming National Assembly, Lawan said that the relationship between the Assembly and the Executive should be based on national interest. Speaking earlier, Liang urged citizens to be proud of the just concluded presidential elections despite the disappointment. While expressing her joy over her stay in Nigeria, the outgoing ambassador said she had made very good acquaintances during her stay.
Or the many bills you've helped navigate through Parliament, which is, of course, the foundation of the whole governance process. You know, it's what goes on in the Parliament and the Senate is really the foundation of a democracy. And I think you've done an amazing job, and we've worked very well with you on all of that. So this is really just for me to say farewell, to say thank you. But not the end. I hope we'll continue to, whatever role you move into, I'll be certainly watching Nigeria very closely. And I hope my successor, Richard Montgomery, will be able to forge a strong relationship with you in your new position as Senator-elect.
I believe that the 10th National Assembly will have many experienced legislators, both in the Senate and the House, but with 70% of the senators and members-elect being new, the call I would make here is for the next National Assembly to ensure fast and serious capacity building as quickly as we can, because we need to bring into form that the members of Parliament will be able to kickstart immediately. So we have to make every possible effort to provide for capacity building for our colleagues, especially those who are new. And since 70%, it's almost 70%, that means we just have to spend a lot of resources. And I will take this opportunity to say that the National Assembly needs a lot more resources for it to be in the kind of form and shape that will provide the kind of service, parliamentary service to the Nigerian people.
The Omoluabi Coalition Group and the Yoruba Council Worldwide has called for the removal of the Labour Party governorship candidate of Lagos State, Gbadebo Rhodes Viva, for inciting fear among citizens in the state. Speaking at the conference, which was held on Wednesday in Lagos, the Director General Omoluabi Coalition Group, Tunji Balogun, condemned the activities of the Labour Party governorship candidate, saying the desperation of the candidate is going higher by terrorizing, threatening and inciting fears on the citizens of Lagos. He, however, charged Lagosians to disregard any fear mounted deliberately by the Labour Party candidate to stir up violence. On his part, the President, Yoruba Council Worldwide, Oladoton Hassan, has declared support and endorsed Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, his second-term bid. He also appealed to citizens to come out en masse to vote for the governor on March 18.
We are not unaware of Mr. Gbadebo's treasures and deceitful narratives deliberately calculated at causing ethnic tensions and beating drums of war, aiming at ensuring destabilizing the 18th March 2023 gubernatorial and Lagos State Assembly election in Lagos State. We hereby use this medium to sound as a note of caution that in as much as we are pleased to accommodate and working with all ethnic groups, particularly the Igbo extractions, most of whom we share common religious, social, and marital affinities. We reiterate that no one should be used as a political channel to override and abuse the Yoruba uncommon hospitable magnanimity and take our unreserved love for good neighborliness and respect for granted.
That there is no need for PDP to feature any candidates. And I'm putting it to all PDP members across Lagos State that I, Oladoto Azan, from today henceforth, I will be joining Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu in steering the ship of progress under the All Progressive Congress.
We're here to actually endorse the governor of Lagos State, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and his deputy, Hamzat. So, and the only way we can do that is, for all of us to come out in mass on the 18th of March and make sure we vote wisely, we vote the right candidates.
The Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, CACOL, and the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC, have reiterated the need for politicians to create an inclusive atmosphere during the forthcoming governorship election. The chairman of CACOL, Debo Adeniran, made this known during a feedback conference which was held in Lagos on Wednesday, themed prioritizing anti-corruption and social inclusion during the 2023 governorship elections in Lagos State. Speaking further, Adeniran urged Lagos residents to hold their leaders accountable during and after the elections.
Most of the political parties actually took us seriously, and they tailored their agenda to suit the purpose of various sectors of Nigerian society. They also promised that they are going to make priority the anti-corruption agenda, that they are going to confront corruption crimes if they won election. And many of them made it part and parcel of their program and manifestos that women, youth, and disabled person or differently abled people will be mainstreamed into whatever they are doing. We have got some of the political parties, especially the major ones, the frontliners. We've got them to assure us that even the budget process will not be done on behalf of the people. That the people at the grassroots will be made part and parcel of the budgeting process. They assured us that they are going to carry out needs assessment.
Government also needs to do more to look into communities where they have untarred roads. Even if they cannot tar every road for now, they can upgrade them and make them motorable.
Justice S.I. Opara of the Imo State High Court, sitting in Owerri, the state capital, have on Wednesday denied the immediate past Deputy Governor of the state, Gerald Irona, bail after the prosecution argued that his bail application was filed late on Monday. The prosecutors argued that as of Wednesday morning, when the accused was arraigned, the 48 hours allowed by law to enable the prosecutors to respond on points of law subsisted. They said it would be unlawful for the judge to entertain the bail application when a counter bail application had not been filed by the prosecutors. Following the gruesome murder of the Labour Party candidate for Enugu East Senatorial District, Oyibo Chukwu, just days preceding the February 25 presidential election, a non-partisan group, Nsukka Professionals Association, have expressed regret that no arrests have been made since the incident. President of the group, Charles Nwodo, who briefed journalists on Tuesday in Lagos, also raised an alarm over plans by some political gladiators to cause violence during the coming governorship and State House of Assembly elections, especially especially in the Enugu East Senatorial District. Omodo urged the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, to dispatch a special team of detectives to Enugu State with a mandate to seek out and apprehend all those directly connected with the crime, no matter their status or extent of connections in the society.
The brutal assassination of the Labour Party candidate for Enugu East Senatorial District in the days preceding the February 25th, 2023 elections by individuals who are yet to be apprehended. We are appalled that no arrests have been made and no suspects have been interrogated by the security agencies to date. The Inspector General of Police is implored to dispatch a special team of detectives to Enugu State with a mandate to seek out and apprehend all those directly or indirectly connected with this heinous crime, no matter their status or extent of connections in the society. The Nsukka Professional Associations announces a donation of 1 million naira to the family of the slain politician in humanitarian solidarity for their grief, along with all persons of goodwill in Enugu State and Nigeria. It is our resolve to ensure that this crime is thoroughly investigated and justice served on the guilty in accordance with our laws. B. Reports of violence and electoral malpractices. Credible reports of plans by desperate politicians in Enugu State to compromise key officials of INEC, the Nigeria Police Force, the Nigeria Army, and other security agencies in Enugu State, with a view to frustrate the conduct of free, fair, and credible elections. We are informed that an INEC Enugu State official, Mrs. Ife Naono, has been specifically accused of being the coordinator of the plots to disenfranchise Enugu voters. We call on the chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, to immediately recuse this staff from all official activities related to the forthcoming election, so as to reinforce the credibility of the electoral process and also protect the career of this staff in the event that she is innocent of the accusation.
Take a break here, but still to come, Nigeria's inflation rate rises further to 21.91% in February 2023. We'll bring you details when we return. Welcome back. Now here's a recap of our top stories tonight. The federal government has shifted the population and housing census earlier scheduled for March 29 to a later date in May. Lai Mohammed, the Minister of Information and Culture, announced the development on Wednesday at the end of the Federal Executive Council FEC meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari in Abuja. Mohammed told State House correspondents that the decision was necessitated by the rescheduling of the governorship election to March 18. We also told you that the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC has commenced the distribution of electoral materials to all polling units in readiness for the governorship and state assembly elections. Speaking during the exercise at the premises of the Central Bank of Nigeria in Osogbo branch, the State INEC Resident Electoral Commission Mutiu Adegoke assured that the commission would scale up its level of arrangement procedures and security due to the high stakes attached to the elections. In case you missed any of our news bulletins or for more updates, you can catch us on Limex World TV or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria. On Facebook, we're at TV360 Online. Nigeria is among 54 other countries with its health workforce support and safeguard list struggling with personnel shortages. According to the World Health Organization, the impact of COVID-19 and widespread disruptions to health services, health workers in these countries continue to seek better paid opportunities in wealthier countries. The affected countries have universal health coverage index of below 55 and a health workforce density below the global median of 49 medical doctors, nursing and midwifery personnel per 10,000 people. WHO Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus said the list should be used to inform advocacy, policy dialogue at all levels, and financing efforts in support of health workforce, education and employment in these countries. We'll take another break and return with business updates. Stay with us. Welcome back. Mary Kanu joins us now with updates in business. Over to you now, Mary.
Thank you, Simisola. Helen, welcome to Business News. The National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, says the country's headline inflation rate rose to 21.91% in February 2023 compared to 21.82% of January 2023, indicating an increase of 0.09 percent points. The inflation rate data is contained in the latest CPI report released on Wednesday by the NBS. The report comes as the country attempts to bounce back from months of naira scarcity occasioned by the naira redesign policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria, first announced on October 26, 2022. The NBS added that on a month-on-month basis, the percentage change in the all items index in February 2023 was 1.71%, which was 0.16 percent points lower than the rate recorded in January 2023. The International Air Transport Association has disclosed that the trapped funds belonging to foreign airlines operating in Nigeria have risen by 12.39% to $743 million in January 2023 from $662 million in the corresponding period last year. IATA disclosed this in a letter addressed to the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, signed by the Area Manager West and Central Africa, Samson Fatokun. The association urged the minister to intervene and ensure the resolution of the issue of airlines' blocked funds in Nigeria. We'll take a break and return with Stock Market Report. And for the third time this week, equities trading on the floor of the Nigerian Exchange Group closed in the red zone as investors sold mostly the shares of United Capital PLC and University Press alongside 17 other equities. Now increased activities on the sell side of the bourse pushed further south the market's benchmark performance index by 0.42% to close at 55,490 basis points. Investors lost 127 billion naira as market capitalization closed at 30.2 trillion naira. Now compared with the previous trading day, today's data shows 181 million volume of shares were traded in 3,908 deals. A switch now to the global scene. It's not a good trading day in the US and UK. The FTSE has plummeted to a 3-month low ahead of Chancellor Jeremy Hunt's spring budget. The FTSE is down at 3.49%, while the Dow Jones is also down at 1.9%. 0.74% as pressure on the financial sector increased the shares of Credit Suisse, a Swiss bank that has large U.S. and global operations, tumbling down more than 15%. That's the stock market report. Simisola, back to you.
Thank you, Mary, for that update. And in Malawi, rescuers are still struggling to reach survivors in the country's battered city of Blantyre after Cyclone Freddy struck southern Africa for a second time, triggering floods and landslides that have killed more than 240 people across 2 countries. Red Cross Malawi spokesman Felix Washon told newsmen they have been hoisting people from trees and rooftops. Rescue workers in Malawi also warned that more victims were to be expected as they searched destroyed neighborhoods for survivors as thunderstorms persist and flood levels remained high in some areas, hampering emergency efforts. Authorities in neighboring Mozambique have so far reported 21 deaths, and the death toll there is expected to rise. In sports, Morocco will join Spain and Portugal in a bid to host the 2030 World Cup. The announcement on Tuesday was made through a statement signed by King Mohammed VI and read at a meeting of the Confederation of African Football. Morocco committed to taking part in the 2030 bid more than 4 years ago, immediately after losing the vote for the 2026 tournament, and was in talks with the Iberian nations for a while, but had never been officially included in the bid. Last October, Spain and Portugal were joined in the long-standing European candidacy by Ukraine, which is not likely to remain in the bid. Well, that's our bulletin this evening. Many thanks for watching. I am Simisola Ajiko.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians are saying in this part of the world.
The new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
Hello, it's another sports business time and thank you for joining me again. My name is Jide Olanino. Aside from giving you sports business news today, we will also look at the business of infrastructure sports management model. And that is what we'll be looking at after this time out. Don't go away. Welcome back. As potential buyers for Manchester United continue to line up, a certain eccentric billionaire is reportedly kicking the tires on the historic European soccer club. Elon Musk is believed to be monitoring the situation closely and weighing putting in a bid for the club. A British tabloid says that several interested parties have signed confidentiality agreement to see Manchester United's data room, including several from Saudi Arabia, which could be eyeing Musk as a figurehead for a bid. With a net worth of $187.5 billion, Musk certainly has the capital to make a purchase and also has some personal motivation. In August, Musk joked on Twitter that he was buying Manchester United, later deleting the tweet, but clarifying that if he were to buy a team, it would be United, his favorite club as a kid. Club owners, the Glazers family, are reportedly seeking around $7.3 billion for a full takeover, but have expressed interest in only a partial sale. It is not just Elon. The competition to be the next owner of Manchester United is getting stiff. Bloomberg recently confirmed that a consortium of Qatari investors are set to make an offer for the club with assistance from the Qatar Investment Authority. The country's sovereign wealth fund, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the ruling emir of Qatar, reportedly supports the club. British billionaire Sir Jim Ratcliffe is also still in the running. The financial gap between the Premier League and the rest of Europe's top division is too big, says AC Milan head coach Stefano Pioli. Premier League clubs spent £815 million during the January transfer window, nearly 4 times the combined £225 million spent in Spain, Italy, Germany and France. The Premier League's financial dominance in Europe increased to the highest proportion ever reported in January. Spending by English top-flight clubs accounted for 79% of the total across Europe's Big 5 football leagues, where January expenditure fell by 35% from 2022. Chelsea spent more in January, around £288 million, than the combined total of all clubs in La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga and Ligue 1. And finally, Ile-de-France President Valérie Pécresse has demanded more than €200 million from the French government to enhance transport services for the Paris 2024 Olympics. Pécresse, who is head of the Ile-de-France Mobile, has reportedly issued a letter to France's Transport Minister Clément Benoît in a bid to secure the funding for the transport improvements. According to Le Parisien, Pécresse called on the French government to respect the commitments and guarantee IDFM resources to finance both the operation of new metro and Rousseau Express Regional lines and transportation for the 2024 Olympic and Paralympic Games. The IDFM is the authority that controls and coordinates the different transport companies operating in the Paris area public transport network. And that's the news. We're going to break, and when we return, it will be time to discuss about sports infrastructure management model in the Dugout segment. Don't go away.
Fantastically finished.
Welcome back. Yes, on the show, yes, this dugout segment will definitely focus on sports management facility, the model that will truly work for us here in Nigeria. And no other person to join me than an expert who's been working on some of this model. He's got some academic work as well as day-to-day business that he does as far as this area is concerned, talking about sports infrastructure management. Adedami Adedotun joins me. Adedami Adedotun, by the way, is the head of sports Temple Company. Adedami, thanks for joining me again today.
It's always a pleasure to be on your show, Jide. Thanks for having me once again. Yes,
once again, it's great to be with you. Adedami is our in-house expert when we talk sports business on the show. Adedami, let's start by looking at just of recent. The Kaduna State, a sub-national state in Nigeria, had the opportunity of having the transfer, a federal sports facility transferred to their domain for management. That is the federal government that is supposed to own the Ahmadu Bello Stadium Sports Complex had to transfer the management of that complex to a state, Kaduna State. And this will be our focus today. And I want to ask you, is the government managing sports facility models still practicable in this age?
So thank you very much, Dide, for the question. And I think that the current events, which you mentioned, sort of answers that question, right? So if you look at government from two levels, there's the federal government and there's the subnationals, which are the state government, which is the state government. At the federal level, what the ministry is doing is to hand over certain federal infrastructure to subnationals, and which is because, the federal government has realized that it is not, federal government managing those facilities is not sustainable anymore for those facilities. So to answer your question, at the federal level, federal government, sustaining those infrastructure is not a sustainable model anymore. But before we even, if you digress a bit, if you look at infrastructure as a whole, the problem we have in infrastructure in Nigeria is not just the management of it, but the sufficiency of infrastructure. We don't have enough infrastructure for the different purposes for infrastructure, for mass participation at the community level, for professional sport at the state level, and also for major events at the federal level. So for government alone taking that responsibility of managing sport facilities, it is not sustainable anymore.
All right. So what can be done to make national assets like this stadium now, the stadiums that we have all around Nigeria, even though some are saying we still have less of what is required to cater to 200 million people. So what can we do to make sure that all these assets become productive?
So yes, we don't have enough because we did an analysis while we were working on the national sports industry policy. And if you look at developed countries like in the US, the UK, the population to stadium ratio, or the stadium to population ratio is about 1 to say 300,000, 500,000. For Nigeria, it is 1 to 5 million, right, at the federal level. So we don't have enough. For us to bridge that gap, we need over 200. So it is definitely not enough. And government in itself cannot bear that burden anymore. So back to your question, what can we do? First is to find, to collaborate with private sector to manage those assets, right? And because if you also go back to infrastructure development, there are key things that you think about or you consider when you develop an infrastructure. One is the legacy for those infrastructures, because in Nigeria, most of our infrastructure have been built because we wanted to host a national tournament or a continental tournament, the Abuja Stadium when it was built, the National Stadium in Lagos when it was built. But what you do is, post-event, there has to be a post-event legacy to ensure that, look, those facilities are still fit for purpose after the event. And one of the ways you could do that is to ensure that there's a professional team within the environment to take on those infrastructure. If you see, if you look back to the recently concluded World Cup in Qatar, right from the onset, they've developed legacy for those assets. There are some of them with the container model stadium, that the legacy is to dismantle them and transfer those carcass to other football clubs. Some have been handed over to professional clubs. So what we don't do well in Nigeria is have a post-event legacy for our facilities. So going forward, a way to properly, sustainably manage those assets is to make them fit for purpose. You understand? What can be done in those facilities that will attract footfall in those facilities? Lagos, for example, there's the National Stadium in Lagos has, I think, over 60,000 capacity. The question is, beyond just hosting Super Eagles, what else can be done in the stadium? At the moment, there's no Lagos-based football club in the MPFL, which is the professional football league. Which are some of the issues, you understand, for a stadium of that size? So the question we need to ask ourselves is if those infrastructure are still fit for purpose, how to make them fit for purpose, and how to collaborate with facility managers, private sector organizations, so that we build a collaboration, and we build a relationship that ensures that those assets are properly managed and we can deliver revenue.
Okay. All right. Then, all right. So the next question. How do we introduce a business-like model into our sports infrastructure management?
Okay, so that's really simple, right? Again, it goes back to the purpose for which those facilities were built in the first place, right? Because what you see as a global standard is that sporting infrastructure are not used solely for sporting events anymore. There is a multi-use purpose for sports infrastructure now. They are evolving into becoming entertainment centers too. So there's a sport and district entertainment model being used, adopted globally. So we need to start looking at those kind of models in Nigeria too. Second is to to give incentives for private sector participation in infrastructure development. Because once you have that, private sector investment means that there's an expected return on investment, which means that they will put in proper processes, proper models in place to ensure that those facilities are used and they generate income for the facility owners. So how to create the model that will work? First is private sector involvement to manage the existing facilities and to also invest in new facilities. Second is to adopt a multi-use strategy to ensure that beyond just sporting events, we also use those sporting facilities for entertainment events. You understand? And it's also important as a strategy to identify the key target for those facilities. Because again, the facility that you build for a major event is not the facility that will be used for regular training or the facility that will drive mass participation. So in developing strategies that will make sure that we have a sustainable model of managing those infrastructure, we have to consider all of those things to make it fit for purpose, to make it multi-use, to bring in private sector in terms of managing those facilities, and also to invest in them.
It's not a coincidence that Nigeria now has national sport industry policy, and also Kaduna that has the honor of having the national assets like the stadium transferred to it. Also is planning to put together a sports industry policy of sorts. And do you think that also the good policy like this can also jumpstart, the reviving of the interest of, spinning around or turning around the fortunes of some of these facilities that we have? Especially, that we have some of them. You made mention of the National Stadium. That is one. It's been there There are a lot of things that the Sport Ministry is thinking of doing with it. Don't forget that there is also one, Liberty in Ibadan. Do you think a sports policy can stimulate the necessary interest or drive the necessary model that would drive the interest that would generate the fortunes?
Absolutely. So I'm glad that you mentioned Kaduna State and its policy. What happened last week was that there was a stakeholder engagement session. There was a policy dialogue because Kaduna State is the first state that would domesticate the national sports industry policy. And what happened during the policy dialogue was to break down the policy into areas. And one of the areas is facility and infrastructure development, right? And the conversations around facility and infrastructure development is how to build fit for purpose infrastructure, right? Which is what I mentioned earlier, that look, how do we ensure that the facility we build within the state or the existing facilities within the state are fit for purpose. Some of the things also discussed is how you can use sports facility to trigger urban development, right? And how you can also use facility for athlete development and elite athlete development. So the importance of policy is so that we discuss those peculiarity at the subnational level, you understand? And that's what's currently happening in Kaduna. And it's not a coincidence that this is happening shortly after the Ahmadu Bello Stadium was handed over. The management of the facility was handed over to the state. So what the policy would do is guide the conversation around how to ensure that there's sustainable management of that asset and also the state's owned assets, including the Muritala Mohammed Square in Kaduna and all other state-owned assets. But like I said, there has to be conversations around what infrastructure we actually do need as a country, you understand, and at all levels, either for mass participation, for athletes development, because that's also one critical area that sports infrastructure also includes performance centers, training centers for athletes. So there has to be a conversation around the type of facility that we need at the community level for mass participation, for elite athlete development, for professional sports, and for major events. Once we have that conversation, we're able to identify what infrastructure will be used for what kind of design should it be, how does it affect the environment, how would they affect urban planning and development. Those are the conversations that are necessary for infrastructure development. And once we identify all of these things, it also comes down to look, how do we fund them, how do we finance them, how do we incentivize private sector to be a part of, to drive investments into those facilities? Because at the end of the day, the global standard is that look, it takes private sector investment to sustainably manage those assets. And once we are able to answer all of these questions, we develop a sustainable model. And these are the conversations that are happening as part of the policy development. So for Kaduna to take the initiative to becoming the first state to domesticate national sports industry, it also means that they are thinking in terms of a sustainable model to manage the infrastructure, the one they just got that was just handed over to them by the federal ministry, and also the ones that they have and the ones that they will need for the future, because again, what they have at the moment is not enough to sustain, it's not enough to drive participation or to even drive athletes development or professional sports. So the policy is critical to all of this. It's usually a good starting point, because then we are able to identify all the key parts of infrastructure development and how to sustainably fund and finance it.
So finally, before I let you go, I know you're a basketball enthusiast. The Basketball Africa League was recently launched in Lagos, and very soon there will be pressure on Nigeria. There is an arena in Dakar. Cairo, we also have a piece of the pie, rather. And also, Rwanda already had it, and they will still have it again. Isn't it time Nigeria also look at building an arena of such that will accommodate that will bring ball to Nigeria, and from there we can jumpstart another frenzy, basketball frenzy.
Yes, absolutely. It is time. And if you look at the Basketball Africa League, the BAL, I would like to look at it from two different perspectives, right? One is the Nigerian league itself, and the second is Basketball Africa League. Because if you're aware, it is whoever emerges as the champion of the Nigerian league that represents Nigeria at the Basketball Africa League. So first is, how do we put our house in order and drive investments into infrastructure? I'll give you an example. In the last, I think, 2 editions that Nigeria has participated in the BAL, the first club to represent Nigeria is a Port Harcourt-based club, Rivers Hoopers. Now, Kwara Falcons will represent Nigeria. There is a need to have proper facilities in those cities, Ilorin and Port Harcourt. And these are cities that you have enough middle class for you to have a proper basketball fan base. You understand? So beyond just building facility to host the BAL, which is good, there's also need to have facilities so that we have a proper professional league. Because if you look at the professional league, there are clubs in Lagos Islanders, Hoops and Reed. There are clubs there's a club in Ibadan, Oluyole Warriors. There's one in Kwara. There's one in Delta. There's one in Port Harcourt. There's one in Abuja. There's one in Kano. There's Kaduna Stars. So we have professional clubs across the country. So first point is, how do we ensure that these professional clubs have infrastructure to first promote and drive professionalism in basketball and to deliver an entertainment product? Once that is sorted, then the next level is, look, how do we ensure that we have facilities that can host the BAL? And you won't be surprised that if we get the first point, the first leg right, which is ensuring that we drive investments into facility ownership at the professional club level, we would have invested in facilities that can actually host the BAL. Because if you have a 5,000 capacity stadium arena in Ilorin or in Lagos or in Port Harcourt, then it means that you can actually bid to host the BAL too. So beyond just building facility for a national to host the BAL, we should also consider the importance of having facilities that can drive the development of the professional league in Nigeria. So yes, and I'm also aware that there's a Lagos Arena project going on in Lagos, and it will be a world-class indoor arena. So these things will happen very soon. But as regards the BAL, I completely agree that it is time we host, and I think that a more sustainable strategy is to drive investments into infrastructure for the professional clubs. In doing that, would have solved the problem of hosting the BAL.
Adidami Adedotun is the head of sports, Temple Company, and in-house experts on Sport Exchange. Thank you very much for talking to us today on the show.
It's a pleasure, Jude. I enjoy talking sports with you. Thank you very much.
All right. That was Adidami Adedotun talking to us about sports facility management model, the kind of model that can work for Nigeria. Okay. We'll go on a break, and when I return, it will be time to sign off. Back. Before we go on the show, let me leave you with this. Did you know that the Super Bowl 57, which saw Kansas City Chiefs winning the day over Philadelphia Eagles, might have come and gone, but it brought us some impressive numbers from the sports book, which is about how people staked money on the game. With 50 million Americans projected to bet $16 billion on $16 billion on the Super Bowl across legal and extra-legal channels. It's no surprise that sports books were very active on the big day. GeoComply, which verifies bettors' location on behalf of legal sportsbooks, registered 100 million sports betting transactions on the Super Bowl 57 weekend, a 25% increase from last year. Several American sportsbooks reported milestones as a result of the increased traffic. FanDuel, which is a fantasy and online betting site, averaged 2 million active users on its platform throughout the Kansas City Chiefs' 38-35 victory over the Philadelphia Eagles, and was taking a record of 50,000 bets per second at its peak. DraftKings, another sport betting site, paid out $2.68 million US dollars to one bettor who wagered $1.68 million US dollars on the Chiefs' money line. MGN Research says it had the highest Super Bowl betting handle in company history for the state of Nevada, including money wagered at its 9 retail sportsbooks on the Las Vegas Strip and on its BetMGN app. Next year, the countdown to Super Bowl 58 is already on, and given it will take place in the sports betting capital of the world, the handles are only bound to increase. As for who could be taking home the Lombardi Trophy next year in Las Vegas, the books are already favoring a repeat. At DraftKings, the Chiefs open as plus 600 favorites to win it all again, while the Eagles open at plus 900, the fifth best odds. Betting, bet responsibly, but make money while you do it with your head on. Thanks for joining me on today's edition of the program. Till I come away next time, I'm yours truly today, tomorrow, and of the future in sports business, Jide Olanro.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
Welcome to the program. I am Deji Badimasi. Now, it's been over a week since after the February 25th presidential elections. And of course, there's still so much talk about the functionality of the BVAS machine and alleged sabotage in uploading election results on the portal of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The presidential candidates of the Labour Party and the People's Democratic Party have both headed to the court now, especially that's the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal now, to establish that each of them actually won the election and that the process was rigged against them. Both candidates had asked the Court of Appeal not to grant the application that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, be allowed to reconfigure the BVAS machines for governorship and House of Assembly elections, now rescheduled for 18th March. Now, the court, of course, turned down that request and gave INEC the approval to reconfigure the BVAS for the next round of elections. And, of course, that next round of election has now been postponed to March the 18th. Don't also forget that before the appeal court now gave that ruling allowing INEC now to reconfigure the BVAS, the court had actually given, of course, the go-ahead to the presidential candidates. That's the presidential candidates of the Labour and the PDP now. Both parties had been given the go-ahead to inspect and carry out forensic audit now of the materials used for the election. And let's not also forget that the APC also got a similar order. Joining me now to discuss the fallout from the presidential election is Ayodele Adewale, who is a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress and a former chairman of Amuwo Odofin local government area here in Lagos. Thank you very much for coming on the program, Comrade Ayodele.
Thank you for having me.
Let's discuss generally the outcome of this election. And one area that I would really want to get your reaction on is, did you see your defeat in Lagos? Did you see it coming?
Well, I didn't see it coming because we actually worked very hard and all of that. But again, a lot of people didn't come out to vote. And I think that is what accounted for the low numbers. And I won't call it defeat. I will just call it the low number.
It's a defeat anyway.
The APC was
because the Labour Party won.
Quite frankly, they did. They did win, and they actually
What do you think your party got wrong? What do you think you didn't do right that caused you to lose the election beyond the poor turnout? And can you say, look, those who didn't turn out for the election would have voted for your party?
I will not say we lost the elections. Looking at the numbers of seats we won in the National Assembly.
Yeah, I'm talking about the presidential election. For the National Assembly, of course, you did well.
For the presidential election, the result was quite low. And it is not to say that APC is not popular in Lagos. And that is why I said that we should also look at the number of seats that we won in the National Assembly. We won all the senatorial seats. We won about 97% of the House of Representatives seats. If you put all of those numbers cumulatively, you will say that we actually won in Lagos. But with regards to the presidential, I would say that it has come and gone. Lessons have been learned. And by the grace of God, such a thing will not happen in future.
Well, you're saying such a thing will not happen in future. March the 18th, governorship election would be coming up. And look, the impression out there on the street is that your party is very jittery.
No, we are not.
Because some other political parties have now seen that, look, your party is actually beatable in Lagos.
No, we are not. We are not jittery. We've always been campaigning to people, so this is not the first time. If you look at all the presidential candidates from various parties, our candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was the one that went farthest in reaching out to people. Look at the number of campaigns, look at the number of strategic meetings that he had. If we must be truthful to ourselves, he did more, he reached out more. And that has been the signature of all our candidates in the APC. So for the governorship it's going to be the same, and it has been the same. So we've always reached out to people, either elections, time, or not.
Let me ask you this. When you look at the other political parties. I mean, you look at the candidate of the PDP, Olajide Adediran, you look at the candidate of the Labour Party, Gbadebo Rosevival, who, of course, no doubt has sort of gained momentum after the presidential election. Which of these candidates now are you really concerned about that you think can really give you a run?
I'm not concerned about any of them. I'm more concerned about Lagosians. I'm concerned about the already going on programs that the APC has embarked on. I'm more concerned about Lagos benefiting from the center, most importantly. Now that a former governor of Lagos is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, he knows the ropes, he knows the gaps, he knows the benefits that should be accrued to Lagos. The issue of special status will now be discussed in a very robust manner in the National Assembly. And of course, Lagos will get what it deserves. The issue of investors having more confidence in Nigeria, to come into Nigeria, come into Lagos to invest. That is what I'm concerned about.
And you have every confidence that your party can win the governorship election?
We are going to win the governorship, no doubt about that. What I'm looking forward to is to have a seamless growth for Nigeria and in Lagos. Don't be quick to forget that Lagos has the biggest economic hub in Nigeria, and of course it's the biggest fifth economy in the whole of Africa. By the time Asiwaju finishes his 4 years, the ranking will change. Lagos perhaps might be the first or second biggest economy in Africa. Remember that when Asiwaju was governor of Lagos, he used his political capital to bring in Enron to produce energy in Nigeria as IPP. But it was frustrated by the Obasanjo-led PDP administration. If we have achieved that in year 2000, 23 years after, you can imagine where Lagos
but the truth is that as we speak today, of course, your victory in the presidential election and of course that of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu is still under a very big question mark. I mean, you know, that victory has been challenged in court as we speak. You look at the way the election went, especially with the issue of the beavers and the non-transmission of results now, you know, real time to the INEC, that's the IREV now of INEC. Do you think, you know, this whole issue about INEC not transmitting the results real time and all of that, do you think it has tainted, don't you think it has tainted the victory of, you know, probably in a bad way now, the victory of your party in the presidential election?
Well, I would have loved to talk more about that, but again, to amount to sub judice. The matter is in court. Let us listen to what will come out from the court. As it is now, the court has given INEC the go-ahead to recalibrate those beavers' machine, and it also implies that the show must go on. Let us see what will come out. We have brilliant lawyers in Nigeria. They will go there and argue their cases out. APC has very good evidence to prove their case that we won the elections. Historians and students of history will also learn from that. We saw the two-thirds majority that frustrated Chief Obafemi Awolowo from becoming the president of Nigeria. If that thing had not happened, I'm very sure Nigeria will not be where we are today. We would have been among the top-ranking countries of the world.
But looking at the BVAS machine itself, would you say it was a game changer in this election?
No doubt. The BVAS machine is a game changer. The BVAS machine have shown very well that more Nigerians now have confidence in our electoral process, especially the youth. Never in our political history have we had such amount of youth having this much interest in the electoral process.
What difference do you think the BVAS actually made?
Well, the BVAS was able to cut out ghost voters. More importantly, it was able to cut out parties writing figures that we have seen during the PDP era and all of that. The BVAS have shown more transparency to our electoral activity, and I think the technology also should be improved more. Instead of recalibration, there should have been a wallet whereby all of the activity, the captured data, will only be kept in a wallet. Another wallet be opened in the machine.
They say all the data have been backed up in a back-end server, so to speak. So.
Definitely in a back-end server, and the machine, the beavers capturing machine, should also have a back-end whereby you can store it in a wallet. So the issue of recalibration will not matter. It is the issue of you opening another vista and the process continue.
And do you think the beavers too is the reason why the turnout for this last round of elections, the presidential and national assembly election, that the turnout was really low? It's the lowest we've had since 1999, yes?
The beavers did not account for that. I think more information...
Because turnout was really low.
More civic enlightenment needs to be done in that area. But I think what accounted for that more is the cash problem that we have in Nigeria. A lot of people will have to travel from point X to point Y, and many of them don't have cash. And the problem they've encountered at various cash points, especially at the ATM, made a lot of people lose interest. You know, they are coping with the cash problem, they are coping with the fuel problem and all of these things. So it's enough to make people not want to partake in a process. You understand, having gone through all of the rigor over the week. But as we journey on, these issues will going to be resolved during the Asiwaju presidential administration. And going forward, things like that will not happen.
And yeah, you keep talking about the Asiwaju administration so much, especially for his supporters like yourself. You know, the expectation, of course, you would appear to be promising so much. And I'm just wondering if you're not placing a huge burden of expectation on him, because the question is, how much can really a president of this country do to turn around things, for instance, if the governors are not really pulling their weight?
I'm not expecting so much. Neither am I putting so much burden on his person. I'm only recounting back to history. If you look at when he came in 1999, what was the state of Lagos economy? What was the state of Lagos itself in all ramifications? He met Lagos at almost comatose. I mean, getting it from the military. The economy was very appalling. The environment was very appalling. He was able to improve on it. Moving forward, 23 years after, he has gained a lot of experience. He has had challenges. He has solved some. Some were not totally done. When he left office, he has seen areas that needed to be improved on. He has gained more knowledge, and he has made more friends.
Look, running the country is different from running a state.
No, I'm a scientist. Before you build something very gigantic, you build a model. The model can be this small. When you get the model well, then you expand it exponentially. That is how it is. Lagos itself can be called a country. Lagos is bigger than most countries in Africa or in the world, right? Now, the population of Lagos, if you can manage the population of Lagos to achieve this much prosperity that we have in Lagos, and economists have said that it is the 5th biggest economy in Africa, that is attracting a lot of investment and investors, of course, Nigeria should not be a problem.
Well, we just have to wait and see. But let me ask you a final question. What do you think Nigerians should expect from, you know, a Bola Tinubu government?
Nigeria should expect the best. Now you have a master mariner that is navigating the ship. You have someone that has political capital without borrowing money. He has been able to solve major big problems in Lagos. Take, for instance, the ozone surge that was almost taking over the whole of Victoria Island. And he brought investors, and they created a new city, the Equa Atlantic, that did not only add to more land space, it also improved on the aesthetics of Lagos and the IGR of Lagos.
Well, again, as I said, we just have to wait and see. But it's good you pointed out the fact that look, Lagos could be a scale model.
But mind you, Lagos is a model. And many of the people in Lagos have also gone to the center to assist the federal government. Take Mr. Benakabueze, that was able to assist with our budgetary system. Take Mr. Fowler, that was able to assist with the federal inland revenue to improve on the revenue system to the extent that when we had an issue with oil revenue, it was the tax that was able to calibrate our economy. You understand? Take, for instance, the vice president, that was the former commissioner of justice in Lagos. He was taken to the center, and he was also able to add his value. Take Mr. Raji Fashola, the former governor of Lagos, that was taken to works and housing infrastructure. Under the Buhari administration, we have more infrastructural projects that is very visibly seen. You have the second Niger Bridge completed, many roads were done, and so many things. Even the former deputy governor of Lagos, Mrs. Orolope, was also taken to the federal. So actually you have more of them all around the place that can, bring a lot.
Just before I let you go, just one final question before I let you go. The governor of Lagos State was speaking the other day, I think, on a television program, and he did confirm that, look, part of the reasons why your party lost the presidential election in Lagos State, he gave, one of the reasons he gave is that there's internal problems within the party. I know you're also an official of the party. I'm just wondering, how serious is this internal problem, and has the party been able to resolve it? Are you going to the next round of election, the governorship and state assembly elections now? Are you going into that election as a united front in your party?
Every system will have its own challenge, but the most important thing is to surmount those challenges and come out strong. The APC is very strong. We are moving strong, and we are going to win big in this governorship election.
So your problems have been resolved?
We've solved our challenges.
All right. Ayodele Adewale, thank you very much for coming on the program, and thank you for talking to us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have more on the BVAS machine. Stay with us, don't go away.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the president of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
Welcome back. Let's continue our conversation now on INEC and the BVAS controversy. I'm now being joined on the program by Ade Atobatele, who is an ICT expert. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Let me quickly ask you what you make of this controversy surrounding the BVAS. And I mean, with what happened, the way things went in the presidential election, would you say it has in any way tainted the functionality of the BVAS and its importance in our elections?
Technically, the BVAS operated exactly as it was asked to do. Unfortunately, for reasons best known to INEC, sometimes passwords were not given, maybe the GSM network did not connect, for whatever reason, but the BVAS itself did the job that it was asked to do. It was asked to accredit people biometrically. It did that. It was asked to take photographs of signed papers by polling officers and returning officers. It did that, and it eventually got the information back to INEC. It may not have got it back to INEC immediately, but those were not problems with the BVAS. Those were problems with external things.
So in this case, I mean, people may just be getting the whole thing wrong, because everyone has just been blaming the beavers.
Nothing wrong with BVAS. What was wrong with procedures? Procedures are human. They're manual. They're things that you give people. You give people a password to log onto a machine. If you can't log onto the machine, you can't blame the machine. If the network isn't there, you can't blame the machine. If you have not stress tested your system, you cannot blame the machine. You have to blame your procedures. The things that went wrong were human things. There is nothing wrong with BVAS. In fact, BVAS has done us a great favor because it started for the first time at the polling booth, we were able to catch overvoting. BVAS worked exactly as it was asked to do. If we don't provide it with the necessary things for it to do what it is supposed to do, that is not BVAS's fault. That is our manual fault. That is a failure from procedure, from standard operating procedure.
Now, from your observation of what happened, especially during the presidential election, do you think it was more? I mean, you know, the glitches we saw now was more of a human error than that of machine?
As I said before, if you don't give the polling officer a password to log in, that is nothing wrong with the BVAS. That means that your procedures for moving the password on the day were incorrect. There will be places around the country whereby the TSM network might fail. But let me put it this way. A BVAS machine cannot stay for more than 24 hours outside an INEC office. And all INEC offices are connected via a local area network. So there has been rumor that people are saying that the reason that we could not upload was either the network was bad or there was a cyber attack. Within that 24-hour period after the election, every single BVAS machine must have come back to its originating office, and then it would have logged onto a local area network, which is a very fast network, and all that information would have gone up immediately. There would have been no reason within a 24-hour period for all that information not to have got onto the right servers.
But what do you think could have happened in this case?
Well, only INEC can tell us that, and that's where the problem is, because INEC now wants to wipe the machines. Let me put it this way: the BVAS machines contain two sets of information. They have the accredited voters, how those people voted, and the pictures of the returning officer that the returning officer signed. But it also has a technical log that says, I tried to contact INEC this way. I tried to use this network to do that. I didn't have a password, or somebody put in a bad password, all of that. Now, the appeal court has said that INEC should provide a certified true copy of the polling data. And INEC now wants to wipe the machine, and that will include wiping the technical data that will give us the information as to why the system failed in the first place. And that is where the real problem was.
But of course, INEC has said whatever it is backed up in its server, that it's backed up in its back-end server. And that's what it told the court, and the court gave the approval on the basis of that.
That is not true. And I'll explain it this way. There are two sets of information. I'll repeat that. Two sets of information. INEC is being very truthful in saying that it has backed up all the polling data. But what INEC is not saying is that it has not backed up the log data from the machine. That log data is the sort of thing that says, I made a phone call, the phone call did not go through. I made it at this particular time. I used this base station. I was at this GPS location, etc., etc. That information is not part of INEC backing up the server. So we will lose all the forensic data we need to know that could be used to explain as to why the system didn't work on that day. That is completely different from the polling data, which INEC has backed up from the BVAS machines by now. In fact, we're seeing that information on the IREF portal now.
Now, would you say, would it be wrong to say probably we were too quick to deploy technology now for our election, especially with the BVAS? Because I covered the election myself, and I saw a lot of INEC staff struggle with the operation of the machine.
The problem that we have with INEC is who is going to actually deploy who's going to use these machines on behalf of INEC on the day, and how much training are they given? We use ad hoc staff. Sometimes they're youth hoppers, sometimes they're university people, sometimes they're various. We really need a dedicated set of people that are trained properly to use this thing, not just over a 24-hour period. Anybody can make mistakes. Even the most genius of people can make mistakes if they're not trained properly. And I think that's really what happens. INEC uses these people, and they haven't trained them for longer than 24 hours, 48 hours. Definitely not for up to a week or a month. And that's really what you need to have. We wouldn't use these sort of people in a bank. We wouldn't use them in an oil field. Why are we expecting a technical capability from people without being trained properly?
All right. Mr. Adia Tobatele, nice to hear. Expert, thank you very much for coming on the program, and thank you for sharing your time with us.
There's one more thing that I'd like to say, if you have time, right? We're making a very big deal about the presidential election, but we need to remember that there were 109 senatorial elections and 360 representative elections.
Yes,
those people are also going to have their data lost because they have not gone to court yet to ask for their own certified copies, and that when they do petition tribunals, that's the information that they're going to need. They're now going to have to depend upon INEC. The new electoral law says that if you're doing a petition, INEC has to be joined. That means that you are suing INEC to get this election overturned, and the information that you need to sue INEC is sitting with INEC. That's like leaving all your chickens with a fox.
Well, that's how it's always been anyway.
Oh, well, then if that is the case, then the appeal court need not have asked both APC, Labour, and PDP, and whoever went to court to be able to get a certified true copy. The appeal court understands that it needs the original data, and so that's why they gave them the ability to get the certified true copies. And in fact, it ordered INEC to give them certified true copies and not to need to defend. And it hasn't always been that way. It is now, the newer law says that INEC is mandatorily joined. That wasn't the case before. At least I do not believe so.
Okay, I'm just wondering, because you talked about you know, the results for the National Assembly elections as well. I mean, does it mean these results will also not be in the back-end server as well?
Well, the question is that what is in the back-end server, we don't know. Only INEC knows, and if we don't know if it's been interfered with or whatever.
Because
we're putting an awful lot of
the reason I'm asking this is we've seen quite a number of results flying on social media now. People going to the back end, to the INEC, that's the IREV now, that's the INEC result portal now, well, they say they go there to bring out results. So we've seen quite a lot of results flying on social media, and I'm wondering where those results you know, would have come from, if not from the portal.
What we saw on election night. As I said, if the appeal court can believe that it's good enough for the presidential candidates to have certified true copies, why would it not be good enough for the senators and the House of Reps to also have certified true copies? No, the appeal court is not.
Well, maybe that will happen when we begin to see, you know, candidates for House of Reps and Senate go to the court now to challenge the outcome of the elections.
That's what I was saying. This is, well, I think it's the job of the media to inform these people. This is what's going to happen when their data is wiped. They will not be able to get the same sort of evidence that the presidential candidates got.
All right. Thank you so very much, Mr. Tobatele. Thanks for your time. All right, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Don't go away.
Opinions are free. Facts are sacred. The truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
Welcome back. Now, in a fresh twist, the Federal High Court, Abuja, has ordered INEC to allow eligible voters with temporary voter cards participate in the March 18th governorship and state houses of assembly elections. Justice Obiora Iguatu, who gave the ruling on Thursday, predicated the order on the grounds that the plaintiffs were duly registered and captured in INEC's database. The court held that there was no portion of the law, both in the 1999 Constitution and the Electoral Act, that states that it was only permanent voter cards, that's PVCs now, that could be used for voting, but that the law under Section 47 provided for a voter's card. But INEC last night vowed to appeal against the court order now. The Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman, Rotimi Oyekomi, said the Commission confirmed that INEC had been served with the court order, but was taking necessary steps now to vacate it now at the trial court. INEC had repeatedly held that only eligible voters with PVCs would be allowed to vote in the 2023 presidential and governorship elections. So joining me now to discuss this is legal practitioner Gabriel now Ehigato, who joins us from Benin. Thank you very much, Gabriel, for joining us on the program. Does this create some kind of confusion now, if you like, for INEC?
For us, the law is the law. The court is so supreme that it must give its own judgment and it must be obeyed. To me, I think INEC have not done the needful. Over time, INEC have, restricted power to themselves to also run their own functionality without actually giving so unduly concentration to the law. What we know as lawyers is that a law must reflect the interests of the people. A law is not made for just for certain kind of reason. It's made for the generality of the people. And I think, for me, the court have done so well. They've actually do the needful. Because when you look at the law, even the Electoral Act says that a voter will only vote when he presents himself with a voter's card. It was not stipulated that it must be either a permanent voter's card or a temporary voter's card. When you look at section 47, subsection 1 of the Electoral 2022 as amended, you will see it for yourself. It's very clear. It's one of the most finest and simple interpretation of law in the Electoral Act, that a voter will be present at the polling unit, presenting himself with the voter's card to the presiding officer. So it is stipulated there must be a permanent voter card or a temporary voter card. But over the years, sir, since 2011 or so, INEC have, compared to themselves some powers, creating issues here and there, saying that you can only vote with the permanent voters card, and it's not in our law. It's not in our constitution.
But then let me ask, how does INEC handle this, considering the fact that the BVAS machine that is used for accreditation before voting is allowed, that BVAS machine recognizes the permanent voter card? I'm just wondering if would it be possible, would a voter with a temporary voter card now who gets to the polling unit now, would that person be allowed to vote? Would the BVAS, for instance, be able to authenticate that voter?
Well, for me, I think if the BVAS could not capture a voter with a temporary voter's card, then I think there's nothing INEC can do about that. But I had some incident in the last general election, the one that we just concluded, the presidential election, where people came to polling unit with the temporary voter's card, and they were not allowed to vote. They were not allowed to vote. So it shows that INEC themselves haven't mind over time that you must vote with your permanent voter's card. I think that was because the BVAS machine that came into innovation, that was where they were hammering on that. And do not also forget that some persons will actually refuse to go and collect their permanent voter's card. And also, they will also complain on the side of INEC. INEC were not proactive enough to provide the permanent voter's card for people. So for me, the court are giving an order that you cannot disenfranchise those with the permanent, with the temporary voter's card. But peradventure they come to the voting unit and the voting center, and the BVAS machine is not able to capture them because they are temporary voters card holder, then there's nothing INEC can do. And I think that's why INEC are insisting that they must appeal the judgment.
Because I'm just wondering if INEC does not get, I mean, if this appeal does not sail through before the governorship election now, governorship and state houses of assembly elections scheduled for 18th, I'm just wondering, would INEC be running foul of the law, for instance, if people were to come, I mean, voters were to come with their temporary voter cards now, especially for the plaintiffs now who have gotten this judgment in their favor, if they were to go to polling units on election day on the 18th, and they are not allowed to vote because they don't have the permanent voter cards. I'm just wondering, what would INEC be running foul of the law, and could that, legally speaking now, could that invalidate any election organized under that circumstance?
Well, the law is clear. It's clear. If INEC do not allow those with the temporary voters card to cast their vote that day, it means INEC will be disobeying the court order, and that will be a big amount on INEC, and that can also go further to affect the processes of the election. But I don't think that will validate the election, to so speak, because our law consultants look at circumstances before they give judgment, and they also consider the circumstances, the effect, the outcome of such a judgment. But I think in this case, my lord, the Honorable Justice Obiora Eguta of the Federal High Court that gave that judgment, they actually look at the circumstances surrounding or the effect of the judgment we're going to give. So for me, I think the INEC officials should obey the court order, and subsequently, let's see what play out from.
When you say they should obey the court order now, I'm just wondering, of course, they've said they're going to appeal against it. But when you say that they should obey the court order, I'm just wondering whether they would be able to, for instance, configure the BVAS to even recognize voters with temporary voter cards.
Yeah, in as much as you have to obey the law, you have to also allow the law to have its course. You must obey court order first. It is obey before you complain. As far as we speak, sir, the judgment given by the law court is what is sustainable, or it is appeal. There's nothing anybody can do about it. If INEC know that if with those with the temporary voters card come to polling unit that they will not be allowed to vote, because after all the beaver machines are going to catch up there, the INEC should do the needful by appealing this judgment as soon as possible. But for INEC to relax themselves and that people with the temporary voters cannot go vote that day, there is going to be a very big issue for them. It's going to cause a lot of crisis at the polling unit. It's going to be create a lot of menace at the voting center. So for me, I will advise INEC to be as fast as possible appeal this judgment, because the judgment has already been given and the law must be obeyed. The court said that Section 47 of the Electoral Act provides that a voter can vote by the voter card. It is stipulated that the permanent voter's card or the temporary voter's card. That is the law. That is the plain interpretation of the Electoral Act. And there's no way stated in our law that it must be a permanent voter's card to vote or a temporary voter's card. So for me, as far as I sympathize with INEC, but the law is the law. The court has given an order and it must be obeyed.
All right. Gabriel Higata, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for joining us on the program.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I will take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, Dissect it so that you can understand it. Use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
Welcome back. Now, with the outcome of the February 25th election, the next National Assembly will be the most diverse in the country's history. At the moment, both the APC and PDP are the dominant parties in parliament. Now, while they will still have more members in the next parliament, their numbers will, however, be depleted. There's been a change in the old order thanks to the emergence of the Labour Party and the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP. And of course, you also have the SDP there in the mix. Granted, the APC has a comfortable lead to form the majority, including the return of some high-profile individuals such as Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila and his deputy Idris Wase. The 10th House of Representatives will witness a plethora of new members amid the returnees. Another noteworthy fact is that Nigeria's 10th Senate and 10th House of Representatives, which will resume, of course, by June this year, will be male-dominated. Only 15 of the 423 legislative seats declared so far by INEC will be occupied by women, while 408 will be occupied by men. In other words, women represent just 3.5%, while men represent 96.5% of the 423 seats in Parliament. Now, this raises more concerns about the lip service paid to affirmative action as well as gender and equal opportunity in the country. There are also concerns that since the majority of the members of Parliament will be new, this could impact legislative process in the National Assembly. Joining me now to discuss this further is the head of Department Political Science and International Relations at the University of Abuja, Dr. Sharif Gali. Now, you look at, let's start with female representation in Parliament, Doc. Just 15 members, 15 women so far. We don't know, maybe there will be more when the other elections are concluded, but just 15 women in Parliament so far. That is really poor, under 4%.
That's actually a flinch back on democracy in Nigeria. Because when African states as well as European entities have been struggling to make sure that they make politics all-inclusive, having more women participation in the process of decision-making, and in our 10th, parliamentary coming, we are having a kind of less number of women. Even though in the 2023 general elections, we had just like 5% margin between male participation and female participation in the elections. But this does not actually depict a good journey democratically in terms of women participation in the country. I hold the belief that if women actually allowed and given more opportunity, though the opportunity has been given, just that the women went into hiding because we have not really seen them. So what we expected was the women to show their interest to actually participate. They get screened up at the party level, as well as, rub shoulders so that in the long run they get elected. I hold the belief that our policies will be more responsive, will be more mass targeted if we have more women in the policy making process. We're going to have more diplomatic ties, more meaningful diplomatic ties. Why? Because women are good diplomats when deployed to serve. We're going to see more responsive foreign policy gesture in terms of our relationship with the outside world. This is going to define more peaceful foreign policy as well as domestic policy. Why? Because women, as you know, they are not actually belligerent. They always try to pursue peaceful policy.
Okay, now I get your point. I get your point, Doctor. But there's no question at all, as to the impact better women representation now could have in governance and all of that. But the reality is that they are far underrepresented in parliament. And I'm just wondering, don't you think it's time, for instance, we came up with a legislation that will prescribe, we'll have it written down now, prescribe the number or prescribe a certain percentage or a certain number that political parties, certain number of women now that political parties should field as candidates in elections? Because I'm just wondering if we were to just leave this open, do you think this issue can be redressed?
Democracy is a process of freedom, willful expression of interest, as well as the right of people protected. So if we're going to have this under duress, it's like
but this is not a question of having it under duress, and that's the whole concept of affirmative action anyway. I mean, remember the Beijing Declaration and all of that. I'm just saying this is not a question of having doing it under duress, but can't we just pass a law, have a law that says, look, in Parliament there should be so and so number of female representation. Say, look, even if you want to say 10, 15, 20%, then you know that the political parties will have no choice than go after female candidates, for instance, for setting positions.
The political process is always evolutionary. It is of an evolutionary process. Probably the level of maturity or maturization of women to come out into political participation is not actually duly and well matured. So what we need to do is sensitization and further reorientation of our women, incentivizing them to actually accept the fact that their participation matters for nation building and national development. So having the process mandating the political parties to have a particular number of seats, for women.
Yes, reserved for women.
It's like, a kind of deviating from democratic concept. Why? Because as I argued earlier, democracy is all about freedom.
No, but how is this deviating from democratic norm? I mean, is it not part of democracy if you have a law and this is a law that the lawmakers will have to make, they will sit down and debate, and then is it not the beauty of democracy? Because if you say you're leaving it open, we are in a society where, whether we like it or not, however we want to pretend, there's just no equality. There's no equality between men and women. And would it be fair to say, just throw it open and let the women compete against the men?
JG, it's good we leave it open because there is suffrage, all able men and women who have attained the level of maturity can actually vote and be voted for. We saw this in the UK from 17th century. We saw this in the United States only in the 18th century, and Greece later followed suit. So therefore, if we say that we are going to make a law, for women to be given a particular, number of seats, in the parliament or even in the executive, then you might end up not even having the expected number of women who are actually supposed to fill the gap.
Really?
So what I'm saying here is I'm advocating for making it open. What we'll do is to call further for openness and women reorientation and incentivization so that our women will actually have that particular courage to come out to actually stand to be voted for in terms of elective position. So it is already there. The law has already provided both men and women, who aspire to occupy political positions, should actually contest. It all depends on the political process, party level screening, who the electorate think, that is from the primary level, to the general elections, the electorate will actually decide either male candidate or female candidate, but not actually to make it like an imposition or to impose it on political parties to do that. It is better we have open mandate, open process.
I'm very sure some women will not agree with you. But let me just ask you this. You look at the diversity we're going to have in the National Assembly now. More parties are now represented, are going to be represented now in the next parliament. How good is that for our democracy?
Yes, of course, that actually envisages a good opposition. Why? Because democracy envisages opposition as well as periodic free and fair election, even though that is more theoretical. So if we have the Labour Party, the PDP, the NNPP, as well as the SDP, you know, within the framework of the parliamentary structure, it means that our democracy is beginning to actually accept and embrace opposition. Means that we're going to speak with multiple voices, you know, in the National Assembly, thereby making critical argument for a law to be made. So it means that this law will actually represent divergent groups, different political organizations, and variegated bandwagons of interest. So this is a great thing we can say. Why? Because democracy cannot actually mature. It cannot thrive without opposition. It means that it is not only one voice, and many people are being represented. And the beauty of it all is that it is the parliament. And if you have a parliament which is constituted by divergent political parties, it means that it is a democratic parliament, multivociferous symbols parties such as the PDP. It is an ideal situation to have more political parties represented at the National Assembly. It means more Nigerians are being represented at the National Assembly.
Well, we also have to hope and pray that some of these lawmakers don't defect. You know how they do it. So let's just hope and pray that they stay in their parties and they do not defect along the line. But I mean, let's look at the other side of the coin. In the Senate, you have 109 senators at the moment as we speak today. 62 of those senators are going to be new senators. In the House of Representatives, where you have 360 members, 222 are going to be new members. And that number may change because we still have some elections that are yet to take place. Now, so you look at the overwhelming majority of the members of parliament will definitely be new members. I'm just wondering, don't you think that may also affect the quality of legislation that will come out from parliament, at least for a while?
The beauty of democracy, Deji, is to have periodic elections. And it doesn't matter who is old or who is new. Those who are coming new, they are going to go for induction courses. They're going to go for training. They're going to visit other parliamentary, deliberations, outside the country. They're going to go for workshops. So therefore, and they have experienced colleagues. It's just for them to have a kind of 1 or 2 sittings and they become conversant with the whole process. And they're not going to stand, isolated. They're not going just to stay without studying the whole legislative process. The quality of patriotic lawmakers, responsible and responsive, and those who care about the people they represent. Not just those who will actually conspire with the executive. Whatever the executive says is final. That is why we had a kind of, crisis in the, let's say, 8th Assembly, where the members, so to say, perform below expectations, as perceived by their constituents. And that is why they were welcoming them with tongues whenever they got home. So the 9th Assembly maneuverously or intelligently try executive is put in making sure that the Electoral Act, as well as the issue of electronic, passage, transmission of election results, is being actually done. So we want a legislature, a parliament that truly represent their people, not just to actually collapse their functions with the function of the executive, or to be lured or swayed by the judiciary or any organ of the government. So if we have these new members, it means that democracy is at work, because these are new lawmakers ushered by their own constituent to come and represent them. It's a kind of political reshufflement. Probably the emergence of new political parties which have been accepted and embraced by the people, that automatically determine the coming of new legislatures.
All right, Dr. Gali, I think we'll just have to leave it there. I want to thank you very much for coming on the program and for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you so very much. All right, we'll take a short break. We'll be right back.